The story starts off 3 million years ago on Earth. It was the era of humanity's first steps. And he was there, the protagonist of this story, just an ordinary Australopithecus with an unusual love for hunting. But something about him defied the natural order. He never died, even as time passed and his species went extinct. Countless eons swept past him, but time had no effect on him, and the protagonist kept living through generations. In the infinite flow of years, one thing drove him. Hunt, battles, fighting, it was his sole purpose, his ultimate thrill. Over 3 million years, his body transformed, molded by endless combat. And with nothing but his raw, physical strength, he became a god. The protagonist came to be known as the #1 ranked god in the divine realm, Earth God Mu, and he was in charge of planet Earth. At some point in time, Mu sighs and says he's so bored, as he stomps on the ground with an insane amount of force. At that, the land he's on, the god's sanctuary divine realm, starts shaking violently. Right then, even the monsters and angels of other realms also feel the tremor and get terrified. In charge of planet Elmure, the second-ranked god in the divine realm, Lucifer, god of Elmure, looks back at Mu and infuriatedly says there he goes again. Then Mu sits back and disappointedly says he thinks he has fought everyone worth fighting, and there's no one left who can stand against him anymore. He wonders when the last time he fought was, if it was 1,000 years ago, and says being too strong has its downsides too. But right at that moment, something comes to his mind, and he questions if it means that he's too strong to even fight. Then he excitedly questions if it isn't right that he just needs to weaken himself, and he wonders if he isn't a genius. Mu understands that if he takes on the fragile body of a human from Earth, there'll be plenty of opponents to fight. So then, he calls someone named Yang out loud, and immediately, a huge green dragon comes flying down from the sky. The Supreme God's secretary, Yang, stands before Mu and nervously asks if he summoned him, calling him his lord. Then Mu proceeds to leave and head toward the Earth, telling him to watch over this place while he's gone, which startles Yang. Realizing what's happening, Yang uses his skill, Absolute Binding, and immediately, some big shackles come out of magic circles and bind Mu tightly, which surprises him. Then Yang frustratedly asks him where he is going without any explanation. The gods' meeting is coming up soon, so how he plans on handling that. However, Mu keeps on moving forward, dragging Yang along with him, asking if he looks like he cares, while Yang tries his best to stop him, saying, "For heaven's sake." He cries and asks what he's supposed to do if he leaves like this. He doesn't even know where he's going, and he'll have to come up with excuses in the meeting. Everyone's going to take out their anger on him, why he was even born. He's feeling so useless. Hearing all the whining, Mu breaks apart the chains with sheer force and furiously asks so if he wants to fight him instead. Yang gets terrified by that and hurriedly tells him to have a safe trip. Then Mu says he's off. He touches the Earth that he's in charge of and wonders, now, whose body he should borrow. Immediately, Mu hears all the prayers from the humans on Earth, but one requests him to destroy the world, as he doesn't want to go to work, if there's a god, to screw him or send him to another world. Mu gets surprised to hear that and excitedly thinks, alright, he has chosen this one. He'll grant his wish as a bonus. But then, he notices Yang sulking over how worthless he is, and nervously wonders if he should explain this to him. So Mu informs Yang that he's leaving his body behind, and tells him to take care of it. He's trusting him with this, also, to look after the one who'll come in his place, which startles Yang. He frustratedly asks if he's saying his soul will leave. That's impossible, as if his body dies while his soul is away. His soul will perish as well. However, Mu asks with a wide grin on his face, who's worried about whom, and leaves, telling him that he'll be right back. Yang shouts at him, telling him no, he can't, it's too dangerous, but Mu doesn't listen anyway and goes to Earth, leaving behind his body. Meanwhile, a demon screams out loud as he is blasted by a powerful attack, and the boy who shot the attack at him says, finally. He excitedly says he did it, he defeated the Demon King, and then, it's the end of the story. The protagonist of the anime happily says it's over. With cheat abilities, he easily became a powerhouse in another world. And 17-year-old Earthling Lee Ho, watching the anime, annoyedly says so this is the ending of a harem in another world. What a lucky bastard. Then he throws down his phone, saying it was fun, as it falls on the ground and breaks apart. Lee Ho, who is standing on the roof of a 3-story school building, says now he can die without any regrets. He frustratedly clenches his fist, telling this world goodbye, and jumps down the building. As Lee Ho is falling down, if there's a god, he tells him to screw him, if he's so upset, then to send him to another world. After that, as he falls to the ground, blood spouts out of his head and he's about to die. But then, suddenly, his body starts moving again, and he gets up, gasping for air. Mu, who is now inside him, frustratedly asks what this is, as he finds himself badly hurt. At the same time, Liho seems to be sweating heavily, as he suddenly finds a huge dragon in front of him. Then he frightenedly looks at Yang, and Yang confusedly looks at him, as they both ask each other who they are. Right as Mu got into Liho's body, he got shocked to find himself straight to the ground. And before he could do anything about it, he fell face first and got badly injured because of falling from such a height. Then Mu frustratedly asks what this is. As soon as he gets there, he tries his best to lift his hand and move his body, but he fails. As he's lying on the ground, unable to move at all, he thinks about the involuntary muscles. Muscles that move without conscious control are called involuntary muscles. Mu, who has spent 3 million years training only the physical body, has reached the pinnacle of understanding the human form. He could consciously control every part of their body and blood vessels, and even involuntary muscles were no exception. So then, Mu uses his knowledge about controlling his involuntary muscles, and manages to get his heart to beat again. Then he finally gets up, gasping for air. Still, he finds it hurting, while he thinks the heart was repaired. And by moving the blood vessels, he even managed to stop the bleeding. After that, Mu slowly gets on his feet, saying it's been a while since he has bled this much. So he excitedly thinks, coming there was definitely the right choice. Then he decides that he should roughly sift through his memories, and says alright, as he puts a whole bunch of bandages on himself. After that, Mu starts walking away from there, saying, first, he'll head to the base, but walking on his 2 feet a bit, but puts his hands on the ground and irritatedly says, at this pace, it'll take all day to get there, as he starts rushing forward like an animal. The next day, in the morning, at the house of Earthling Liho, which is just a room in the basement of a building, Mu finds that after spending hours digging through memories, he has figured it out. There's one male family member, but he lives far away, so essentially, Liho lives alone. Mu understands that in simple terms, his condition is described as poor or miserable, and his occupation involves attending a place called school. And there's more, he gets to know that at this school, there's someone who picks a fight with him every time he goes. He excitedly says it's perfect. He can jump straight into a fight, as he throws a punch in the air with a force much higher than that of normal humans. But immediately, he feels terrible pain in his arm and questions if it's because of the handstand. Using muscles he hasn't used in a while, Mu gets excited, realizing that it's muscle soreness. He gets heated finding that he got muscle soreness after 1,000 years and thinks, how exhilarating. Then the next day in the morning, the security officials have surrounded the place where Liho's body fell, while the teachers and students confusedly ask what happened, why there's so much blood. At that moment, Mu arrives at the school, looking carefree. He notices the people gathered but doesn't seem bothered and enters the school. A few moments later, as a teacher is teaching his students, page 56, top line, the introduction of socialist thought. In the early 1920s, it was primarily among young intellectuals. Mu slides open the door of the classroom with a tremendous amount of strength, excitedly saying, here. But immediately, the door bounces back and hits his face. He finds it hurting and walks into the classroom while rubbing his face. At the same time, a student sitting at a desk inside the room and using his phone gets surprised to see him. The student calls Mu as Lee Hagu and annoyedly asks what he's doing. Hearing that, Mu stops rubbing his face and looks at the guy with an intense look on his face. After that, he walks up to the student but just stares at him with intense bloodthirst, as Mu has his own rules when it comes to fighting. Then he laughs with the joy of fighting after so long, asking the student if it isn't right that it's him. Seeing all that, the student gets back on his seat and asks Mu if he has gone crazy, where his glasses are. Right then, all of a sudden, the student again punches Mu in the face and mockingly asks if he sold them off, as without his glasses, what now if he has attempted murder at the nursing home, and laughs. He believes that a fight only begins when all parties involved have the will to fight, and he is always waiting for a fight. Therefore, the key lies in the opponent's intent. And Mu understands that the way to confirm that is the opponent's preemptive attack. As right then, the student hits him in the face with a lot of strength, causing him to badly bleed from his mouth, and Mu excitedly smiles, thinking, finally. Seeing that, the student amusedly asks if he's laughing, so it's certain he's insane. But before he could finish his sentence, Mu punches him in the face with a lot of strength. But right at that moment, the student finds himself bleeding from both his nostrils, while Mu finds the arm he used to hit him really hurting. Because of that, he cries out and says that's right, muscle soreness, and at the same time, the student grabs his nose to try to stop his bleeding. Right then, the teacher in the class furiously yells at them, calling them bastards, and asks what they're doing during class, while the other students in the class get surprised to find that a fight broke out. The student Mu hit, frustratedly says damn, and rushes at Mu, putting all of his anger into his fist and trying to hit him, calling him a crazy bastard. Immediately, Mu puts up his arms in front of him to block the attack, and thinks that if his body was in good shape, he'd be able to avoid this much. But if that's the case, he tries to use his magic to call for his third and fourth arm. However, Mu gets startled to find that his magic failed as his extra arms didn't show up, and right then, the student trying to hit him gets his chance. He lands a powerful punch straight to the side of Mu's face as he says, "Oh right, the Earth's mana." At that, the student comes at him and punches him again, furiously telling him to not to mess with him. Then Mu thinks there aren't many options he can use as he comes up with a plan, understanding that if he can't use his arms, legs, or magic, he puts his head forward as the student tries to punch him and hits his fist against Mu's skull. Immediately, the student feels his finger bones break and screams out loud because of the intense pain. Mu understands that thin finger bones can't possibly overcome the skull, excitedly thinks, before he comes to his senses. He rushes straight up to the student and headbutts him in the stomach area, knowing that it's the human weak point, the solar plexus. The student gasps because of suddenly getting hit at such a critical point, and Mu gets ready, thinking if he goes straight up, as he hits the student under his chin with his head, making his teeth clank together and knocks him out. Then the student falls to the ground unconscious, and in the meantime, the other students have gathered around them, most filming the incident on their smartphones and looking shocked. They worriedly ask what if Lee Ho won, if it wasn't just the previous day that he got beaten up and went home. While Mu keeps staring at the fallen body of the student he just beat up, and thinks, after a fight ends and the excitement settles, there's something they can only feel then. The regular pain pulsing in the areas where they were hit, the sticky, bitter taste of blood that seeps into their mouth. Mu looks up and starts laughing, while his body trembles with pain and excitement, thinking, this is it. Then he looks closely at the fallen opponent's unconscious body and thanks him. But then, Mu brings his mouth close to the student's face and bites some off of him and throws it on the floor, which frightens the other students. They keep sweating heavily and terrifiedly wonder if he bit off his ear, as they think of him as crazy. Then Mu rubs the blood off his face and excitedly looks at the student fallen on the floor, thinking it was a fun fight after a long time. Mu left his mark on those who gave him a fun fight. It was his way of expressing gratitude, and marking them as a toy that could bring him joy. Hence the name, Mu's Play. Only the strong opponents could give him a fun fight, so naturally, Mu's Play became a symbol of strength. But on Earth, it was called something else, as students in other classes started gossiping among themselves, as one asks another if he heard it, about the fight in the second year. Hearing that, the other student yawns and asks what the big deal is about a fight, but the previous student tells him heard something strange. The other student asks what, and the previous student explains to him that the bully got beaten up by the kid he was picking on, and the loser got neutered. By that time, a cat is peacefully sleeping on the school's roof, while most students look outside the window as the student Mu beat up is being taken inside an ambulance. Mu also looks out the window and says house call treatment, nice, and as the ambulance leaves, Mu waves at the student, telling him see you again. Right then, his teacher shows up behind, looking really furious. He calls him Lee Hagu and tells him to go to the teacher's office. After that, Mu goes with him to the teacher's office, and the teacher furiously shouts at him, asking if he's out of his mind. He picks up and file, infuriated asking if he did that to a classmate, and is about to hit him, while Mu excitedly thinks, good, to hit him. But right before the teacher hit Mu, he stops, which surprises him. After that, the teacher clears his throat and says what he's talking to him for. He tells him to bring his parents. He also tells him not to cause a scene that day, and just leave early. At that, Mu gets confused and wonders if he's not hitting him. After that, he leaves the school and heads toward his home, thinking that leaving early means returning to the base. Looking at his hand, he says he needed time to recover from the damage anyway, so this is good. And there's a lot to do if he wants to keep fighting with this weak body. He finds his hand still trembling due to pain and says it would have been nice to use mana. He is thinking about the power beyond humans. Mana, called by various names like Kai or Chakra in some places, most gods call it mana. Mana, the life force present everywhere in nature. In some worlds, humans become hunters using it. In others, they become wizards. But on Earth, there's no mana, so no magic or skills can be used, as Mu again tries to use his magic but finds that it's not working. So he understands that he'll have to get used to fighting without the third and fourth, and feels disappointed. Because of that, after Mu returns to Lee Ho's home, he lies down on his bed and thinks he'll take time to recover, so he should head back for now. Immediately, he returns back to his own body in the domain of the gods and gets back up. Then Mu tries to tell Yang Yang that he's out, but gets confused to find Lee Ho sitting on Yang Yang's neck, trying his best to take control of him, while Yang Yang is choking and struggling to get him down. After that, Yang Yang falls to the ground as he can't take it anymore, and at that moment, Lee Ho walks up to Mu and points at Yang Yang, telling Mu to get him that. Lee Ho annoyedly asks Mu if he didn't call him to send him to another world. It'd be nice if he could give him that too while he's at it. He excitedly thinks that with a dragon, he can be overpowered in another world and giggles. However, Mu raises his hand, saying, a strange one has come, as he uses his magic to call on his third arm and grabs Lee Ho tightly with it, which startles him. He terrifiedly asks what he's doing, while Mu walks forward and drags him along with him, excitedly telling him that he'll send him to another world. After that, he heads to the second in rank, Lucifer's domain, and as he enters Lucifer's castle, Lucifer notices him. He senses Mu walking toward him, along with a human held tightly by him, and Yang Yang coming behind them. So Lucifer immediately says no. At that, Yang Yang frustratedly asks what. He hasn't even said anything yet. He points at Lee Ho as he's sweating heavily, and tells Lucifer that he decided to send him, so to open the gate. But Lucifer looks at Mu and annoyedly asks why he gets to decide that. Mu says with an arrogant smile, because he's stronger, and tells him that if he has a problem, then to hit him. He adds anytime, as he's really thirsty for some tough fight. At that, Lucifer frustratedly thinks, just brute strength. But before he could tell him anything, Mu walks past him by putting his hand on his shoulder and tells him fine. He'll handle it, so to move aside, which startles Lucifer. After that, he tries to touch the planet Lucifer is in charge of, but a barrier shows up and Lucifer frustratedly asks what he's doing, as interfering in another god's domain is against the god's unwritten rules. He explains that if a god who isn't the domain's ruler interferes, a barrier activates, and tries to tell Mu that even he can't break it. But right then, Mu breaks it, which shocks Lucifer. Then he annoyedly asks why he always says no, if he has even tried, so he tells him to step aside, to which Lucifer stutteringly tries to tell him about the world's rule. But Mu ignores that and calls Lee Ho as he releases him from his third arm. Mu tells Lee Ho to go in, as he said he wanted to go, so that's the other world. But Lee Ho asks what about the dragon. Mu says that Yang Yang is his. He can't give him to him, so he tells him to go find his own dragon. Hearing that, Lee Ho tells him no, that's not right. He wants to be overpowered. But right then, Mu tosses him inside Lucifer's domain using his third arm. He irritatedly says kids these days don't want to put in the effort. After that, he walks out of Lucifer's castle, telling him he's going, and to take care of him, while Lucifer infuriatedly clenches his fists. Lucifer originally came from his own domain, the planet Elmure. He was called the first demon king and stood at the pinnacle of all living beings. Growing arrogant, he challenged the existence known as God, and he was easily overpowering him. By the end, Lucifer created a huge sword and threw it at the god, and killed him. Thus, he took the place of God, defeating other gods and rising to the top. He was the god of gods, their absolute ruler, invincible and supreme, legendary and unparalleled, catastrophic and mythological, infinite and transcendent. In short, Lucifer was utterly amazing, until Mu appeared, as he got easily crushed by Mu. At that time, he infuriatedly thought that he should just wait, calling him a lowly human. Now, as Mu sits on Yang Yang and tells him they should, as he wants to head back toward his domain, while Yang Yang struggles to carry him, and one of Lucifer's minions follows them. Now, the student that Mu took down infuriatedly thinks, damn, he'll kill him, thinking of his sandbag loser. Sitting at the hospital bed, he checks his phone, saying he thinks he's a tough guy, but he's dead. The student hurriedly scrolls through his phone, looking for his Chial Hyung's number. In the meantime, at a boxing gym, the 111th National Sports Festival, Young Division, boxing middleweight champion, Kang Chial is busy with intense boxing training. Suddenly, he hears a phone ringing inside one of the lockers, with a ringtone repeatedly shouting, just over and over, and annoyedly looks back. He asks another guy in the gym who's calling, and the guy walks up to the lockers, saying oh, it's his. Then Guak Chial, 2 years of boxing experience, 14 sparring sessions, picks up the phone and tells the person on the other side, yeah, to speak. The student who got taken down by Mu tells him that it's him, and asks if he didn't tell him last time that his phone screen broke, so if he doesn't need a new one. Hearing that, Guak Chial thinks for a moment, then he tells him to speak with a wide grin on his face. The next day at school, the student who got taken down by Mu enters his class with heavy bandages on his hand, nose, and right ear. As he heads toward his desk, the other students notice him and say whoa, to look, it's real, and wonder how he ended up like that after constantly bullying others. They say that he acted so though, but turns out he was nothing. It seems they were scared for nothing. They jokingly add about to get neutered, and start laughing. Hearing all that, the injured student furiously throws his backpack on the floor saying damn it. He shouts at his classmates, asking if they're mumbling loud enough for everyone to hear, calling them bastards, and if they have a problem, he tells them to come at him head on. Right then, a girl slams her books on her desk and irritatedly tells him not to make a scene, to either sit quietly or leave. Hearing that, the student who got beaten up by Mu gets even angrier and asks if she's crazy. He picks up his chair and is about to toss it at the girl, furiously asking if she wants to die, calling her crazy. But right at that moment, a young buff teacher enters the classroom, confusedly asking what's going on, and the students stop. The teacher asks the girl why she's standing, calling her class president, while all the students seem worried. Hearing that, the girl hurriedly sits at her desk, telling the teacher it's nothing. Then the teacher tells her, after school that day, to come to his seat for a moment, and the girl nervously asks him why. After school, the girl meets the teacher and the teacher tells him with a smile that the guy who caused a ruckus the previous day, Lee Ho, can't be reached, so he asks if she could go check on him. Then the teacher joyfully leaves, telling the girl that he'll make sure to write a great recommendation letter for her senior year, so he requests her to do it. That day's a big day, that's all. The girl seems really pissed off as the teacher is laying off his own work on her, but still, she goes to Lee Ho's house and knocks on his door, asking if he's there. However, no one answers, so she asks if no one's there, and turns the doorknob saying she's going in. The girl gets surprised to find that the door is open, and after that, she enters Lee Ho's room. But then, she finds Lee Ho lying unconscious with his head on the floor and screams out loud, wondering if it's a corpse. So after that, the girl hurriedly takes him to the hospital and puts him in emergency care as he's still unconscious. Suddenly, Mu enters back into Lee Ho's body. Then he opens his eyes and looks around, wondering what this place is, as this doesn't seem like the place he used to be. After that, Mu looks at his hand and wonders what, as he gets surprised to find a needle connected to a tube attached to his hand. He thinks about it carefully and realizes that something is entering his body, and directly through the blood vessels. He understands that this is nutrients. The nutrients are being absorbed quickly, helping with recovery. It's not exactly magic, but the effect is pretty good. He smiles, excitedly thinking so there were some decent things on Earth after all. At the same time, his class president, who brought him to the hospital, comes in and sits beside him, asking what happened, as she wonders why he's laughing, if he's crazy. She tells him that the homeroom teacher told her to go back to school. He asked him to go to him first. He keeps bothering him, so she'll take the call and proceeds to leave. Mu gets up, wondering if this is the person who helped with his recovery, and tells the girl to wait a second, to let him ask her something. Hearing that, the girl looks at him and asks what it is. She tells her to hurry up, as she has to go to the academy. Mu understands that he doesn't know enough about Earth, so he needs to gather information. And the most important thing is, he pulls out the needle providing him nutrients and asks the girl with a smile if she knows anywhere where he can train his body. Hearing that, the girl looks at Mu and thinks about it, as she still finds him looking weird. Then she asks if it isn't right that he doesn't have money. So after that, she takes him to a park nearby and puts him on the pull-up bar as Mu does some training. After training for a bit, he gets down and says this is really good, while he's completely drenched in sweat. Then he looks around at the other equipments around him, questioning if it was called Sansujang, as these are such professional training equipment. He recalls that until 4,000 years ago, before he left, stone rolling, cliff climbing, digging holes. It was just simple, primitive training methods, so he says, Earthlings, they might be stronger than he thought, as he tries out other equipments. But he wonders what kind of training this is. Right then, someone throws a small rock at him from behind, and it hits his back. At that, Mu looks back and the guy that he beat up before in his classroom tells him he found him, calling him Lee Hagu, as he came with Quack Chial. The guy infuriatedly tells him that he searched the whole neighborhood to find him, and asks why the hell he's there. However, Mu ignores that and picks up the rock, asking who threw it. The guy that got beaten asks who else would throw it. He tells him that he's dead now, as his cousin took out all the third graders. But right then, before he could finish his sentence, Mu comes at him in the blink of an eye and punches him in the face. Immediately, the guy falls to the ground hard and cries out in pain while holding his nose. At the same time, Mu wonders if the one who he beat up before did a preemptive attack, and excitedly thinks he's welcome. Meanwhile, in the gods' realm, the gods' regular meeting commences, with all the gods around a round table except Mu. Yang stands at one end of the table and nervously reads from a paper that he'll begin the regular meeting. Since the Lord is absent, he'll just deliver the message on his behalf. But right at that moment, Lucifer calls him from the other side of the table, which startles Yang and makes him even more nervous. Then Lucifer asks him with bloodthirsty eyes what he's even doing there. And Yang hastily tells him, no, he's doing nothing, he'll just relay the message and leave. After that, he looks back at the paper and clears his throat as he gets back to reading from it, saying the message says, it's the same as usual, if they find someone worth fighting, to report it, that's all, which leaves all the gods there speechless. Right then, Lucifer bashes the table with his fist using an insane amount of force, landing a huge crack on it, which makes Yang anxious. Lucifer furiously asks what this is even about. He's already pissed off with this pointless routine, and now if he's not even showing up, he asks everyone if they think this is okay, while everyone remains silent, not understanding what to say. But then another god steps in, saying, the purpose of this meeting is to maintain the stability of the world, and when an off-standard entity arises that the Earth God can't handle, they step in to take care of it in his place. So rank 3 in Divine Realm, Divine Archer Sasusasoso asks if it doesn't seem like nonsense, as it's really disappointing that he didn't attend. Lucifer shouts, stating that the real problem is whether the maintenance of the world has become nothing more than that bastard's personal entertainment. The entire system could collapse at any moment, all because of his reckless whims. And to make matters worse, the chaos he caused while pretending to fix it has only made things more disastrous, as he asks if they remember the planet Cyclops from 1,000 years ago. 9th ranked in Divine Realm, God of Cyclops, gets startled to hear him say that, as he starts sweating, recalling what happened to his domain. 1,000 years ago, on planet Cyclops, an enormous monster almost as big as the planet showed up and threatened to annihilate it. Void creature Shoggoth, it bit off a significant portion of the planet, right before Mu crushed it with his bare fists, looking really excited. Lucifer says that they could have handled it with minimal damage if the gods had worked together, but that bastard made a mess, and instead, he let the creature devour a part of the planet. So he again slams the table hard with his hand, infuriatedly saying he can't stand seeing him wreak havoc any longer. He's not fit to hold the position of a god. Yang gets shocked to hear that, and he thinks about his lord, frustratedly wondering why he must go through this trial. He prays that he comes quickly. In the meantime, on Earth, the guy who Mu just punched in the face hard, frustratedly calls him a damn bastard, and asks if he's crazy. He shouts at Mu, asking if he even knows who his cousin is, as he's a boxer. He calls Mu an idiot, and tells him that he's done for. Looking at Mu, Quack Chial tells him that he's fast with his fists, so he asks what kind of sport he does. Mu asks with a smile if he asks sports, as he doesn't do sports, he fights. Hearing that, Quack Chial bursts out laughing and calls him a bastard, as he asks if he caught some middle school syndrome or something. He says alright then, as he gets into his fighting stance, ready to fight Mu, and rushes at him, saying he should see how good he really is. After that, Quack Chial hits Mu straight on the head with a really powerful punch, sending him back and badly hurting him. But then Quack Chial gets surprised by something. He nervously wonders what the hell this bastard is, as he was definitely watching his fist right until the end. But he deliberately took the hit and seemed to enjoy it. Mu never avoids a preemptive strike, as he licks his own blood, looking insanely excited, and asks Quack Chial if hand-to-hand combat is his specialty, which worries Quack Chial, and he starts sweating heavily. Then Mu mimics his stance, asking if it is supposed to be done like this, seeing that Quack Chial amusedly wonders if he's just awkwardly copying him. What a pathetic piece of trash. But before he could realize it, Mu closes in on him and punches him hard with an immense amount of force. Quack Chial somehow manages to block the attack with his arm, but he still gets pushed back and finds it badly hurting. He frustratedly asks, damn, what kind of insane punch that was, while he thinks, the force is incredible. At that same time, Mu excitedly asks if it isn't right that this is how it's done, while his arm muscles are insanely flexed. He understands that the very instant of impact, he flexed his arm muscles as much as he could. Thanks to that, his arm's screaming in pain, but that's fine, as Mu excitedly thinks, because it feels so damn good. He finds that it's the kind of impact he couldn't feel from those bastards, his previous opponents, who would explode just by touching them. Right then, Mu takes out his belt, which startles Quack Chiol, and he wraps it around his fist, thinking, still, if he wants to fight a lot, he has to take care of this body, so for now, maybe he should use a temporary Hemontes. At that moment, the guy who brought Quack Chiol frustratedly asks what the hell he's doing, as he said he can fight clean. At that, Quack Chiol yells at him, telling him to shut up and stay out of it. After that, he rushes at Mu, asking if he really thinks he can win like this, and starts throwing rapid, powerful punches at him. Mu hurriedly puts up his arms in front of him to block the punches, but Quack Chiol shouts at him, telling him that even with that attitude, his guard is as bad as a joke. However, at the same time, Mu reads all of his movements and thinks it's fast and accurate, but it's too simple. He looks closely and finds that just by watching his muscles move, he can tell where exactly he's aiming. As right at that moment, Quack Chiol closes in on him and excitedly tries to finish him off with his move, Bug Cut. But Mu takes the opportunity as he perfectly anticipates his move, steps out of the way, and lands a punch on his arm with a massive amount of strength. At first, Quack Chiol seems confused to find that his arm is broken. Then he screams out loud due to the immense pain, and shouts damn. Seeing his scream so pathetically, Mu amusedly wonders if the guy he took down previously just called him bro, as their reactions are the same. It's funny. Then, Mu hits Quack Chiol's neck from the side and immediately makes him fall to the ground unconscious, which worries the guy who brought him there, and he asks, what the heck? After that, he gets startled to find Mu staring straight at him, with a terrifying look on his face, as Mu excitedly asks, now if they shall finish what they startled, seeing that the guy who came for payback cowers in fear and starts sweating heavily. Then as Mu starts walking toward the guy, he frighteningly tells him to stay away. At that, Mu wonders if he has no will to fight, as this won't do. So he asks the guy if he's not going to fight. If he admits defeat, they can end it there. Hearing that, the guy seems a bit relieved. Then he tries to tell Mu that okay, he admits defeat, but before he could say that, Mu punches him in the face hard, interrupting him mid-sentence. At that, the guy cries out in pain and holds his face, trying to tell Mu no. He admits defeat, but Mu interrupts him again, as he ruthlessly starts beating him up by hitting him in multiple places all over him, which badly hurts and injures him in his already wounded body. After getting beaten up for a while, the guy is fallen to the ground with his face and parts of his body swollen up, as he cries and again tries to say that he admits defeat. But right then, Mu steps on his face to stop him from speaking and looks down at him. He finds it enjoyable to see his miserable state, as he tells him, truly tenacious, he absolutely refuses to admit defeat. After that, Mu bites off Quack Chiol's ear, marking him as Mu's play as well, and leaves the park. At that moment, as the guy who came to take revenge on Mu looks at him leave, he again tries to say he admits defeat. Then he strugglingly calls him a crazy bastard. After that, Mu returns back to Li Ho's home, and sitting on his bed, he thinks, while he enjoys being able to fight, this body breaks too easily. He finds that just this much and his muscles tear, but he thinks that he needs to keep this feeling going, as it's frustrating when the flow keeps getting interrupted. So Mu decides that when he goes back, he needs to bring what he told Yang about, and proceeds to return back to the divine realm. But then, nothing happens. He gets confused to find that he's still in Li Ho's room, and wonders why it isn't working. A few days ago, in the Divine Realm, as Mu was leaving the castle where Elmure, domain of the god Lucifer, was placed, he told Lucifer he's going, and to take good care of Li Ho. Lucifer seemed infuriated at him as Mu hopped on Yang and headed out to head back toward his domain. On their way, Yang asked if he had a good trip to Earth, and Mu told him very satisfying. But this body is too weak, so he told Yang to get him a recovery magic orb. Magic orb. These are items containing magic used on Elmure, Lucifer's domain, or on other planets. These items are common on other mana-rich planets, but on Earth, they could only be obtained through divine grace or whim. Therefore, only a very few in human history could use them, and they were regarded as godlike beings by humans. So as Yang brought Mu back to his domain, he told him that he'll have it ready before his next trip, but Mu told him that he's going back right away. Yang got surprised to hear that and asked what about the regular meeting, but Mu ignored that and started looking for something in his pants, telling Yang that he prepared it because he was nagging. Then he brought some folded paper out of his pants and offered it to him, and Yang didn't know what to say. Immediately after that, Mu went up to Earth and touched it in order to go back inside, which made Yang really furious. The next moment, Mu left his body and got back inside Li Ho's body, which worried Yang, and he seemed devastated, while one of Lucifer's minions kept an eye on them from a distance. At present, Lucifer thinks he doesn't know what Mu is planning, but his body is empty now. He understands that if he misses the regular meeting, he probably won't come for a while Yang looks really nervous. So then, Lucifer excitedly thinks with a devilish grin on his face, now is a once-in-a-thousand-years chance. He immediately uses his attack skill Life Taxidermy, aiming at Yang, which creates a bunch of energy spikes above him. Yang gets startled by that, but he steps back in the blink of an eye to dodge the spikes, as they quickly come down right where he was standing. Then he stops and looks at Lucifer, asking what he's doing. He infuriatedly asks if this is a declaration of war against the Earth God. Hearing that, Lucifer flies up, saying he will expel the Earth God from the position of God, so he tells Yang with a terrifying look on his face that this is war. Right then, Yang starts charging up his flame magic using his skill, Compressed Breath, and shoots it straight at Lucifer. Lucifer looks carefully at the attack and swats it away using his bare hand, deflecting it completely. Then the attack goes round the divine realm and comes at the place where the gods' meeting is taking place. Seeing it coming, Sasasoso uses her skill Defensive Aura, which immediately creates a defensive barrier around the area. And as the flames come back and explode, the shield takes the hit while the gods inside remain unharmed. Right after that, Lucifer uses his skill, Polymorph Release, to entrap different parts of Yang, which he fails to stop. Then, Lucifer tells him that next is his master, but Yang tells him with burning anger in his eyes that there is no next. After the fighting continues for a bit, Sasasoso releases a sigh and says this doesn't seem like a meeting environment at all. As Yang is pinned down to the ground with energy spikes created by Lucifer's Life Taxidermy skill and is badly injured, Sasasoso walks away from the meeting, saying she's leaving. But then, Lucifer tells her to wait and asks which side she's on, for or against the expulsion. But she continues moving, telling him that it doesn't matter to her, so she'll stay neutral. Hearing that, Lucifer tells her with a smile, fine, as long as she doesn't interfere, and tells others, if anyone else opposes, to step forward, as he'll deal with them right away. But then, Yang asks him if he thinks he can defeat his master, and at that, Lucifer smiles. He asks Yang if he's talking about his master who entered a human body and became weak, which startles Yang, and he frustratedly says he knew. Lucifer explains that this happens because they're so drunk on their own strength that they neglect vigilance. At that, Yang furiously tells him damn him. He won't let him do as he pleases, as he tries to hit him with his tail. But Lucifer teleports away from there and shows up behind Yang in the blink of an eye and cuts off his tail, telling him to stay still. As he asks if it isn't right that he needs to be alive for him to go to Earth, and when he gets to Earth, he'll crush his weakened master mercilessly. Then Lucifer starts laughing like a maniac, while Yang trembles in pain and fear as he's worried about his master. In the meantime, on Earth, Quack Chial makes the same expression as his coach furiously shouts at him, asking if he's crazy. The competition is right around the corner, so if he's out of his mind. As if he didn't tell him that athletes shouldn't fight, so if he's quitting. At that, Quack Chial agitatedly apologizes to him, and the coach tells him seriously not to come out until his arm is healed, to go. After that, Quack Chial walks away from there, irritatedly saying if it weren't for that guy, while the coach still fumes with anger. But right as he was about to head out of the entrance, he finds Kang Chial entering the gym and gets startled. Then, seeing his condition, Kang Chial asks what's with his arm, and Quack Chial nervously tries to tell him about it. But right then, something comes to his mind. He looks at Kang and thinks that he's their boxing gym's best output. So Quack Chial excitedly thinks, maybe if it's him, while Kang Chial seems confused to see the weird smile on his face. Then Quack Chial quickly bows before him and tells him that actually, he starts crying, saying kids these days are scary. His younger brother was getting bullied. He explains that he tries to talk to them nicely, but they ganged up on him and beat him up, so his arm and ear ended up like this, and he calls them damn brats. However, hearing all that, Kang Chial walks past him, telling him that he should have been careful before the competition. Instead of fighting, he should have sparred more. At that, Quack Chial irritatedly wonders, what if it's not working? But right at that moment, Kang Chial tells him by the way, which startles him. He nervously laughs and asks why. While he wonders if he caught on, if his crocodile tears are working. Then Kang Chial looks at him and with a terrifying look on his face he asks, "Who is that guy?" In the meantime, at Li Ho's house, Mu confusedly wonders why it isn't going back, as he can't go back to the divine realm. He believes that this is strange, as there is only one reason he wouldn't return, if there's an issue with his original body. Mu thinks that Yang should be guarding his body. Even if not Yang, there aren't many who could harm his body. But then, something comes to his mind, and he worriedly wonders if it could be, if the gods have all teamed up to attack him. Mu gets up and is about to storm out of the room, saying if so, this is no time to idle, frustratedly calling the other gods bastards. But then, he bashes Li Ho's bed, furiously shouting no. He infuriatedly thinks how long has it been since they dared attack, as he should be fighting. Mu repeatedly starts throwing punches on the bed, frustratedly saying, "Damn, please, they should fight when he's there." After punching for a while, Mu stops and tells himself to calm down, although the only reason he can think of is them ganging up on him. He understands that Yang isn't an easy opponent, and since he can't just wait around, he decides that he should do what he can for now. So then, the next day, Mu goes back to the park and starts intense training again by doing hanging sit-ups. As he's drenched in sweat, he thinks that he'll focus on building other muscles besides his arm for a while. Mu finds that by using muscles he doesn't normally use, he can feel his muscles screaming, and excitedly thinks this is good. Then he starts laughing out loud like a lunatic, and hearing that, the other people in the park nervously wonder what's with that guy, so weird, where someone like him came from. Li Ho's class president also finds Mu acting like that, so then she calls him by shouting, "Hey." He gets startled by that and immediately falls to the ground. Then he looks up and finds the girl standing next to him, looking at him. The class president seems really furious at him and asks why he isn't coming to school. After that, the two go sit together on a bench in the park, and Mu asks the girl if he really needs to, as it's not a place to train his body. Hearing that, the class president asks what he wants to do, and Mu replies that he wants to become stronger, so he trains. Hearing that, the girl asks why he wants to become stronger, and Mu tells her to fight better as he's too weak now to fight much. He explains that his muscles aren't trained at all, so he needs training. Through muscle training, he can build stamina, then he can fight more. He continues such blabbering. While the girl nervously thinks he's insane. He's been talking about fighting for hours, so she wonders how she'll get him to come to school. Right at that moment, something comes to her mind, and she thinks that's it. Then she asks, but what's the point of training if he has no one to fight, which surprises him. The class president explains that if he just exercises there, no one will come to him. He needs to meet people and create conflicts to have fights, calling him a fool. So the girl gets up, telling Mu to come to school from the next day, to stop bothering her, and leaves. As Mu watches her leave, he thinks it makes sense. He thinks about the guys he beat up and understands that those guys probably won't come back. He needs to find strong opponents himself, and while waiting for his body to recover, he should look for someone to fight. So Mu gets on his feet, saying he should check out this place called school from the next day, and is about to leave. But right then, someone calls him from behind his second ear, Li Ho. The mysterious guy asks if it isn't right. Hearing that, Mu releases a sigh with a smile on his face, saying seriously. Then he turns around to look at the person, while the mysterious person throws an insanely fast punch, and Mu excitedly thinks, Earth is the best. 15-year-old Kang Chial. It was a time when he was beginning to excel at boxing. Kang Chial's sister, who was a promising rookie ballerina, gained a stalker. The stalker's obsession gradually intensified, and eventually it crossed the line as he came up to her and was about to assault the sister. But at the last moment, Kang Chial showed up and punched the stalker right in the face to stop him from getting hold of Kang's sister. He barely managed to prevent the crime, but because he intervened too early, the perpetrator wasn't properly punished. After that, the obsession of the one who had failed before grew stronger and more dangerous as he came up to Kang's sister with a knife. This time, Kang Chial prevented the crime again, but not as swiftly as before, and the swan's wings were broken as the stalker's knife badly wounded Kang's sister's leg. From that point on, Kang Chial no longer trusted the law. He resolved to do what the law could not. He began secretly working as a vigilante every night, ensuring that those with the potential to commit crimes paid the price in advance. For Kang Chial, fighting is judgment, so he comes up to Mu from behind and punches him right in the face, pushing him back some distance. However, as Mu bleeds from his nose, He finds that it's a light punch, so he wonders if he's testing the waters. Then he snorts out blood from his nostril, thinking even if he is, it doesn't change the fact that he attacked first. Also, he excitedly thinks he thought it would be a while before he could fight again. At that moment, Kang Chiol says lucky him, and asks Mu why he's going around beating people up, if he wants to be a gangster or something. In response, Mu tells him that he's not a fan of small talk, as he taunts him for a fight. Seeing that, Kang Chiol starts boiling with anger, then he rushes at him as fast as possible, saying, "Fine, then," and starts throwing rapid punches at him. Mu looks carefully at his attacks and moves accordingly, managing to dodge all of the punches. Seeing that, Kang Chiol tells him that he's dodging well, while thinking that he has to block his right field of vision. So he tries to hit Mu's right side using his right hand. At that, Mu moves to the left, and right then Kang sends a jab to his side, which is too fast for Mu to dodge. However, Kang Chiol gets surprised to find that Mu put up his right arm right on time to block the punch, and tells him he's blocking well too. But right after that, before Mu could even get a breather, Kang throws a punch at him with his right arm, aiming for his left side, telling him to keep it up. Seeing that, Mu quickly puts up his left arm to block this attack as well, but it's too overwhelming for him and he gets pushed back. After that, Kang Chiol continues throwing deadly punches at Mu at blinding speed, while Mu tries his best to block the punches. But he finds it hurting, and thinks this guy, he's only targeting the ruptured spots. Right at that moment, Kang Chiol finds an opening and hits the side of Mu's stomach with a lot of strength. Mu yelps out in pain as he finds it really hurting, and gets pushed back quite a bit. Then Kang Chiol tells him that it seems he can't use his arm anymore, but even if he's hurt, there's no mercy in judgment. However, as Mu's whole body trembles in pain, he still starts laughing with a wide grin on his face. Kang Chiol gets surprised to see that, and his anger increases by one more level, as he asks if he's laughing. At that moment, Mu holds the spot he got badly hit and thinks he can't beat him, at least not now. But even so, he can't throw away the chance to fight, and he understands that he can't win just by enjoying it. So Mu covers his face with his hand and tries to focus, telling himself to be cautious, to stay calm, and not smile. Mu recalls his past, as even he didn't always win, still, he remembers that it was enjoyable. But he wanted to win, so he calmed his emotions and carefully analyzed his opponent. He used every tactic possible to take down his opponents, no matter how strong they were. The more he thought and used his head in a fight, the stronger he became. And to grow stronger, he suppressed his emotions as much as possible, but despite that, he couldn't help the enjoyment from slipping through, and so, whenever he wanted to win, he stifled his emotions even more, forcing himself to appear sullen, as Mu makes a really weird face, which confuses Kang Chiol. Then Kang Chiol's anger rises to the max as he thinks that he's mocking him, and frustratedly tells him he's crazy. After that, he rushes straight at Mu and tries to punch him as hard as he can, furiously asking if he's still fooling around. At the same time, Mu reads his movements and keeps stepping back to dodge his attacks. But as Mu's back hits a tree behind him, he finds no other choice, and throws dirt at him by kicking the ground. Seeing that, Kang Chiol hurriedly puts up his hands in front of his face to save himself from getting hit by the dirt. Then he tells Mu, throwing dirt in someone's eyes, that's something only a criminal in the making would do, so predictable. Mu slowly raises his head and looks at him, asking what he's waiting for, to keep going, as he's still making that comical face. Seeing that, Kang Chiol bursts out with anger and screams, as he's extremely angry. So he again tries to hit Mu by throwing an insanely powerful punch, aiming at his face. But Mu moves aside his head and dodges it in the blink of an eye. But Kang Chiol moves even faster, as the next moment, Mu finds him right behind him. Kang again tries to hit him with his punch, and barely grazes his chin. However, Mu worriedly thinks this guy is aiming for the chin, as this might work. He understands that bare-knuckle fighting existed in the previous world as well. If there was a difference from the two guys he fought before, it was that their fighting style was far more defensive, and the reason for that was the ground. Mu realizes that the ground was filled with countless variables, making it difficult to fight while moving vigorously. He thinks perhaps the evolution of flattened ground and footwear allowed fighters of today to become more aggressive. With the aggressive tendencies, and knowing exactly where he aims, it becomes easy to guide his movements. As Mu keeps stepping back to avoid Kang's punches, while Kang Chiol keeps forcing him back by throwing rapid punches at him. But Mu understands that ultimately, if he makes him move more, the chances of the variables he set up earlier occurring increase. As right at that moment, Kang Chiol steps on a bunch of small rubble, and his foot slips. Then Mu thinks, when that brief opening appears, he has to strike the vital spot, as he immediately lunges at Kang, aiming straight for his head. But midway, he finds that his arm isn't moving how it's supposed to. Still, he manages to land a hit on Kang Chial's protective goggles with a lot of force. He frustratedly thinks his arm isn't responding, so he tried using his elbow in a pinch, while Kang's protective goggles crack because of the force. Then Mu starts laughing out loud like a lunatic and tells him that he missed, but right at that moment, Kang Chial brings out his baton and hits the side of his leg with everything he has. Immediately, he falls to the ground because of the intense pain, and Kang asks in a serious tone if this is fun for him. He says he'll probably keep doing the same thing in the future too, and he'll make sure he can't laugh anymore as he raises his baton above Mu's head, aiming to finish him off for good. Then, Kang Chial swings the baton at him, and Mu thinks with a nervous smile he lost. He closes his eyes, wondering how long it has been since he last tasted defeat. He realizes that it has been nearly 4,000 years since his last defeat, as the baton is just about to hit his head. But right at that moment, out of nowhere, something big comes at Kang Chial and hits him in the head hard. After that, he quickly looks around him and worriedly wonders what this is, if there's someone else. Right then, someone shouts "Master," which startles Kang Chial, and he hurriedly puts his hoodie jacket back on, saying "Oh no." After that, he runs away from there as fast as he can, and the creature walks up to Mu from behind, strugglingly calling him "Master." Mu gets surprised to hear that. Then he looks back at the creature and asks if he's Yang, as he's in a really small form now and looks exhausted. Some time ago in the Divine Realm, Lucifer brought Mu's real body to his castle, and enclosed it in some kind of powerful barrier with his energy spikes surrounding it from all directions. Looking at it, Lucifer thinks with a devilish grin on his face, this guy can no longer return to his body. He understands that it's a completely severed space, so even his soul can't enter. Now all he needs to do is open the Earth's barrier. So Lucifer turns to Yang and tells him, once he deals with him, he'll give him the position of Earth God. So he asks how about cooperating, while Yang's hands are tied up using his magic. Hearing all that, Yang mumbles something, but Lucifer can't make it out. So he frustratedly asks what he's saying. He tells him to speak up, as he can't hear a thing with that big frame of his. Then Yang looks at Mu's body and asks, that barrier, if being severed means no attack can get through. Lucifer tells him that's right, nothing he does will work, there's nothing he can do, so to just do as he's told and take the position being offered. But right at that moment, before he could finish the sentence, Yang says it's good to know attacks won't work, which confuses Lucifer. Then he looks back and gets startled to find Yang charging up an insanely powerful attack, massive explosion, and nervously says, this lunatic. After that, he throws the attack at him, causing an enormous explosion, which destroys Lucifer's castle, and can be seen in the Divine Realm from quite far. Taking the opportunity, Yang shrinks his size to free himself and escapes from there as fast as he can. He worriedly thinks that he has used up all his strength, and he's in a terrible state, so he needs to quickly inform his master of the situation, as he heads toward Earth. But right then, Yang gets frightened to find Lucifer chasing him from behind and catching up to him, frustratedly calling him a damned lizard bastard. Lucifer furiously tells him that he'll grind him and his master to dust, as he throws one of his energy spikes straight at him. Yang keeps running even faster, but the spike hits him from behind and shoots him straight into the Earth. As he enters the Earth, he goes flying straight toward Kang Chial and hits him on the head as he was about to finish off Mu. Yang nervously explains to Mu that this is what happened and apologizes to him, telling him he's truly sorry. But Mu doesn't respond, so Yang worriedly calls him master. Then Mu says with a furious look on his face, Lucifer, that bastard. Then Mu gets on his feet and asks Yang if he brought it, which surprises Yang. Then he remembers it and says the magic orb. He excitedly says of course, he brought it. Then he pulls it up from his stomach and brings it out of his mouth. Then Yang tells Mu that this is a dragon bloodstone infused with a one-time healing spell. If he had known this would happen, he would have brought more. Mu picks up the stone and says with a smile, this should be enough. Then he activates the stone and absorbs its effects into his body. After that, his body starts healing rapidly, and even the deadly, life-threatening wounds start to heal. But then, Mu gets surprised by something and asks Yang if it isn't right that this isn't just a simple healing spell. He finds that his muscles have become more sensitive and questions if this is a body enhancement spell. Yang giggles and proudly tells him, well, he infused his own magic into the dragon bloodstone. He put some effort into it. Mu finds that there's still some left, and says he guesses it didn't use much mana since it's a human body, and it looks like they can use it one more time. So he tosses it at Yang and tells him to use it. But Yang puts it back inside his mouth, telling him, no, he'll keep it for later use, and stores it in his stomach. The next morning, at the class president's house, the class president holds her pet lizard, Dooley, on her finger and giggles, saying she's as cute as ever that day. She tells her that if only she could talk, they'd chat and play together every day. Then she puts Dooley back in her enclosure, telling her to stay still and be good. After that, the class president puts on her backpack and leaves her home, happily telling Dooley that she'll see her after school. Sometime later, at that school, the bully who got beaten into a pulp by Mu is sitting at his desk and is busy studying, acting like a model student. He thinks, being a bully never really suited him, so instead of messing around, he should just study. Right at that moment, Mu slides open the door of the classroom, which startles the guy who got beaten up, and he starts cowering in fear. Mu notices him, then he calls him, saying yo, and excitedly asks if he wants to have a match. Right then, the class president also arrives at the door and tells him he showed up that day. Hearing that, Mu looks at her and surprisedly says it's her. Then he tells her that he was convinced by what she said. He says with a creepy look on his face, looking for someone to fight. Seeing that look on his face, the class president worriedly hopes that they're not up to something weird. Then she nervously tells him and good luck. After that, the class commences. Some time later, as it gets evening and the sun starts to set, a girl in the senior year classroom asks a guy if he heard. Kang Chiol asks her what, and the girl asks if he doesn't know about the second year neutralization. Kang Chiol leaves the classroom and heads outside, as the girl explains to him, no, there was a kid in second year who was getting bullied. But after hearing everything that happened, Kang Chiol seems speechless. Then he asks the girl if she's saying that he did that to the kid who bullied him. The girl amazedly tells him and he even ripped off an ear. That's why people started calling it neutralization. She asks if that isn't crazy. Hearing that, Kang Chiol surprisedly wonders if even the ear, as he thinks about Mu and finds that the kid they mentioned sounds like that guy. So he gets frustrated at Quack Chiol, thinking of him as a bastard, as he wonders if it was a lie or something. After that, as Kang Chiol walks home with the girl, he releases a sigh and thinks he almost beat up the wrong guy for no reason. Well, he did hit him a little. At that same time, Mu walks right behind him, disappointedly saying, no gains that day. He found throughout the day in the class that everyone's just scribbling with their fingers, and no one wants to fight, so he decides that he might as well go train at the sand area. But right then, Mu notices Kang Chiol walking in front of him and looks closely at his arm. He finds that the size and placement of the muscles, it's the same, so he shouts out loud, it's that guy from the previous day, which startles Kang Chiol. He looks back toward Mu, confusedly asking what, and gets frightened to find Mu coming at him fast. Then Kang starts running away from there, wondering what the hell that guy is, which confuses the girl he was with, and Mu keeps chasing him. Kang Chiol glances back, worriedly wondering if that's the guy from the previous day, and if he's chasing him because he knows it's him. He seems shocked by that as he wonders how he knows. He was wrapped up so tightly like this, wearing expensive protective goggles and mask. Kang Chiol starts sweating because of running for some time and frustratedly wonders, damn it, why he's chasing him, if he's trying to report him to the police, while Mu excitedly keeps running. Then Kang thinks that he'll lose him for now, as he hurriedly enters a narrow alleyway to the side, while Mu follows him. But as soon as Mu reaches the alleyway, he stops and questions where he went, as he can't see him ahead anymore, and finds a bunch of narrow paths ahead of him. He frustratedly asks what the hell, as this is the perfect situation for a fight. Right then, Yang pops out from inside his shirt. He asks Mu if he's looking for that guy from the previous day, the rude bastard who dared to challenge his master, as he definitely smelled a strong male scent when they bumped into each other the previous day. So Yang gets down on the ground and starts searching for that smell, saying they follow that. But after searching for a bit, he bumps into a shoe and looks up, asking what. Yang gets confused to see Li Ho's class president, looking down straight at him, and a moment later, her face turns red. After that, Yang annoyedly asks what the and tells her to move aside, but then the class president grabs him by her hands and picks him up, which startles Yang. Then he furiously shouts at the girl, asking what she's doing, if she even knows who he is. Yang frustratedly thinks, damn it, if only he could use magic, this kind of restraint would be no issue. And he struggles to free himself, while the girl surprised wonders if it's a talking lizard, and if a creature like this can really exist. She looks closely at Yang and amazedly thinks it's so cute, as much as Dooley, no, maybe even more than Dooley. Right at that moment, Yang manages to free himself, then he hurriedly runs toward Mu and hides behind him. He exhaustedly tells Mu that he apologizes, as if only he hadn't lost his power. Right then, the class president looks at Mu. She asks him in a serious tone if that thing is his friend, by any chance. Hearing that, Mu looks at Yang, asking if this one, as he tells her that she could call it a friend, a very obedient one. Hearing that, class president Kim Yujin, 17-year-old, again looks at Yang as she now has status effect, jealousy. Mu notices that, realizes what's going on, so he immediately raises his leg, which Yang is holding onto. Then Mu asks with a smile if she wants to borrow it, which shocks both of them. So after that, Kim Yujin brings Yang to her home to play with him for some time. And as Yang stands still on the floor and looks straight at her, Kim nervously wonders if it's mad. Just now, Mu picked up Yang with his hand as he was sweating heavily and told Kim Yujin that there's someone he's looking for right then, so if she helps her, he'll let her borrow it. Hearing that, Kim hurriedly nodded her head and told him absolutely, which confused Yang. Then Mu tossed Yang at Kim, which surprised her. After that, Mu started walking away from there, telling Yang to just stay with her for a bit and come back on his own. At that, Yang nervously asked him where he's going, calling him master, and Mu told him with an excited look on his face, to the Sansujang. Now, Yang clears his throat and tells Kim that he's Yang, the secretary who assists his master. He explains that as his master has instructed, she is to actively cooperate with him from then on, so he extends his hand toward her to shake hands with her. Seeing that, Kim's heart throbs hard, then she shakes Yang's hand using her 2 fingers and asks by master if he means Li Ho. She tells him with a smile, alright, she'll help them, as he believes it or not, she's the class president. Yang seems confused to hear that. Then Kim tells him yeah, it means she's the leader of the class, and she's also ranked first in her grade. Hearing that, Yang says he understands. His master didn't choose her for nothing, but then he says wait, and asks if that means that his master isn't the leader. Kim asks if he's talking about Li Ho, as she thinks about it for a bit, and tells Yang that Li Ho isn't that high up, she thinks, which shocks him. Then Yang shouts out loud, saying that's impossible. His master is the strongest being, so he can't believe this. However, he thinks about it as well and proudly says that if she's the leader of her class, then his master must be the Earth leader. Yang shouts he got it, and tells Kim, from now on, to do her best to make sure his master becomes the strongest. Kim tells him alright, but on one condition, he has to visit her house often, while Yang seems exhausted from all the shouting. Then he giggles and thinks this worked out well, as he was planning to use this girl to gather information about Earth anyway. So he happily tells Kim that it sounds good, and for his master, that's nothing. While he excitedly thinks that his master shouldn't worry, as this Yang will help him reclaim the title of the strongest. In the meantime, as it's evening and the sun is starting to set, Mu is in the park, doing one-handed upside-down push-ups, while on the monkey bars. After a while, he comes down, then he looks at his hands and gladly says it's definitely gotten better. Mu understands that there's a physical enhancement effect, and as his torn muscles recover, he has become even stronger. So he says at this level, he might be able to push himself a little more as he throws a punch and hits the bar with a lot of strength. After that, he blows off the dust from his fist, and it's still perfectly fine, so he excitedly says he's satisfied. But then, Mu glances back at the trees behind him and finds no one there, which disappoints him. He thinks about Kang Chial and wonders if he's not coming that day. Then he walks away, saying, well, since that guy seems to come to school, he'll probably run into him soon. But as Mu leaves the park and heads for Li Ho's home, the bar that he hit remains warped due to his punch. After some time, as Mu is walking on the streets, a sweet smell comes out of his body and spreads in the air. At that same time, at Kin's house, Kin says there it is, this one and this one, she'll add to cart. She adds that first, she'll check for the clothes like she was told, and it looks like they have bags too, while Yang is sitting on her shoulder. Right then, Yang senses the sweet smell and thinks it's the scent of the body his master is using. So he gets down and hurriedly goes up to the balcony, telling Kin thanks a lot, he'll drop by often, that's it for that day. After that, Yang jumps down the balcony and heads out of the house. He quickly jumps from one place to another, following his master, then he lands on Mu's shoulder, excitedly calling him master, which surprises him. Yang proudly tells him that the one he entrusted to him, he has completely won her over as his subordinate, she will also be loyal to him. But right then, he senses something through his nose and looks to the side, calling Mu and tells him, that smell. At that moment, in an alleyway right beside them, someone mysterious wearing a hoodie is busy beating up a guy. The guy getting beaten up frightenedly asks if he isn't that guy, beating someone up just for stealing a bike, as he's making a mistake. He warns him, telling him he should know that he's wanted, as he'll send people after him, and right then, Kang Chiol kicks him in the stomach, causing him to yelp in pain. Kang annoyedly says that criminal scum sure talk a lot, but right at that moment, Mu walks up toward him, excitedly saying he found him. Hearing that, Kang Chiol hurriedly looks back and gets startled to find Mu standing there, looking straight at him. But Yang points the other way, desperately telling Mu over there, there's an incredible smell coming from over there, as there's a gukbap restaurant. However, Mu doesn't pay attention to that, as he's locked eyes with Kang Chiol, while Kang Chiol looks worried. Then Mu starts walking toward him, while Kang stutteringly tells him to wait a second, as there's been a misunderstanding. He has no intention of fighting, but at that moment, Mu lunges straight at him with full force, throwing off Yang in the process. Seeing that, Kang Chiol worriedly says this is bad and gets ready to intercept Mu's attack. But as Mu gets really close to Kang Chiol, he suddenly stops, looking face to face, but the two don't hit each other. Mu thinks he's not launching a preemptive attack. At the same time, Kang confusedly wonders if he has no intention of fighting. But right at that moment, the guy Kang was beating up slides out his baton from behind him, and he confusedly asks what. Then, before Kang could turn around and stop him, the guy who took the baton swings it at him with everything he has, furiously shouting at him to die. Immediately, Kang Chiol moves out of the way to dodge the attack. But then, he gets worried to find that the baton is going straight at Mu's head, as he's standing right in front of him. Kang understands that if he dodges, Mu will get hit as the baton gets really close to his head, but he doesn't try to dodge it and stands still. After that, the baton hits Mu's head with a lot of force. At that, Mu says with a smile, "Ouch," and asks the man holding the baton if he hit him. Then, he kicks him in the stomach hard, pushing him back, and immediately, the baton flies out of the man's hand and falls into Mu's. The man seems badly hurt because of the kick, but the next moment, he finds the baton next to his face. As Mu hits the man's face using the baton with a lot of strength, and immediately hits him in the head with his own head, looking really excited. Getting hurt so bad in close succession, the man cries out loud in pain and shouts "oh no," but the beating doesn't stop, as Mu throws rapid punches on his chest. He keeps throwing punches and beating the man with the baton, with a lot of strength, while the man can't do anything to defend himself. After being beaten for a while, the man falls to the ground, shaking in pain, as he finds it hard to even cry, while Mu stands in front of him, with a wide grin on his face, but then, his smile fades as he says this is boring. He understands that when he first arrived on Earth, it had been so long that just feeling the impact was fun. But if it's this one-sided, it's no different from before. So Mu says it has to be at least that guy, as he thinks about Kang Chiol. Right then, he remembers why he was there. He immediately looks back, but he finds Kang nowhere, so he wonders where that guy went. A little while ago, as Mu started beating up the other man, Kang Chiol took the opportunity to escape from there as fast as he could. Kang glanced back at Mu for a moment and wondered how he keeps finding him. But right then, he got startled to find a creepy wide grin with a really excited look on his face. At the same time, Yang stood in the way, still smelling with his nose, saying a delicious smell. Come to think of it, since coming to Earth, he hasn't had a proper meal. Right at that moment, Kang Chiol ran past him fast, throwing him to the side, causing a hit-and-run incident. Some time later, Kang Chiol reaches back home, removes his shoes, and heads to his room, thinking about Mu, nervously wondering what's so fun about that guy, if he actually enjoys fighting. Kang is about to recall something about himself, but right then, a girl enters the house, shouting, "The prosecutor has arrived." His sister, Kang Hyun-ah, age 26, excitedly says that another criminal locked up that day. After the stalking case, she decided to beat up criminals and switched careers to a prosecutor. Then Kang Hyun-ah playfully pushes him out of the way, asking how dare he block the prosecutor's way, and tells him to move. At that, Kang Chiol annoyedly asks if it doesn't hurt when a prosecutor gets hit, and his sister nervously tells him he didn't even flinch, living up to his name. After that, she walks inside ordering his brother one ramen, no egg, which irritates Kang Chiol. Then he guesses that doesn't faze her anymore, but since that day, the only thing he feels when throwing a punch is anger. As Kang Chiol starts making ramen, he remembers that it wasn't like this when he first started boxing. Back then, even he. The next day and morning, Mu hears to school, holding the baton in his hand and carrying Yang on his shoulder. Yang exhaustively tells him he's sorry, as he was just too hungry the previous day, while the other students notice him, They look closely and surprisedly ask what that is, if that isn't a Komodo dragon. And Yang seems annoyed by that. Right then, Mu notices Kin in front of him, heading toward him, and calls her. Hearing that, Kin turns toward him, then she gets really excited to see Yang and greets him, saying hi. After that, Mu asks her if she heard from Yang, if she gets it now, which surprises him. Then she remembers Mu telling her that he's looking for someone right now, and tells him that guy she thinks she knows. Kin continues heading towards school with Mu, telling him that if it's someone who covers their face and picks fights, that's Iljami. And Mu confusedly asks what Iljami is. Kin asks if he doesn't know, as it's famous. It's short for Iljan Metajak, basically, someone who bears up delinquents. He's known for immediately pummeling anyone acting like an Iljan. But she nervously asks why he's fighting, if she does Iljan stuff. At that, Mu asks what that is, as he has no idea. He thinks about Kang Chial and irritatedly says he keeps running away, but next time, he won't let him escape, while Kang Chial walks up to him from behind. Right then, Kang gets close to his ear and whispers to him, telling him to stay right there after it's over, as he'll come find him, which startles both Mu and Yang. After that, Kang quickly walks past them, while Mu and Yang stand there still, which surprises Kin. Then she asks what this is, if they know each other, and Mu excitedly says, it's Iljami. After a while, as he sits at his desk in his classroom, he thinks that if he can fight, he can wait as long as needed. But holding back is quite difficult, as Mu rapidly keeps tapping his feet on the floor, being unable to contain his excitement. Yang, who's holding onto his leg while hiding his to hide inside his pants, seems confused to suddenly find it shaking so violently. By the end of school that day, the teacher tells everyone that the night study group will eat dinner, and then study in the third-floor classroom. That's all, and leaves. Then, as the students start to leave the classroom, Mu brings out Yang as he's feeling nauseous, and tells Kin he has something to take care of, so to take it with her. At that, Kin holds Yang tightly and excitedly walks out of the classroom, heading toward her home, while Mu stays inside. The moment everyone else leaves the classroom, Kang Chial puts his hand on the sliding door. Then he enters the classroom, and seeing him, Mu excitedly tells him that he waited. Hearing that, Kang says yes, good, waiting quietly. Right at that moment, Kang brings out some kind of gloves and puts them on his hands, which surprises Mu, as he wonders if this is like Himante's. Then Kang Chial asks if he likes fighting. At that, Mu asks if he said he likes it, as he's mistaken. He doesn't like fighting. He explains to Kang with a creepy smile on his face that it's the pain and shock he feels when he's hit, the screams of the muscles used for movement. He adds that from the past until then, only fighting makes him feel alive, so he fights out of necessity. Seeing the weird look on his face as he's overflowing with excitement, Kang nervously thinks that his expression doesn't match his words. Then he puts his hand back in his backpack, brings out 2 more fighting gloves, and tosses them at him. The 2 gloves hit his head, and he says ouch as they fall on his hands, and he puts them on. Then Kang Chial puts away his bag, telling him to get in, as he can't seriously hit someone who's not even a thug. But before he could even finish his sentence, Mu lunges at him with everything he has got and tries to punch him straight in the face. Seeing that, Kang Chial hurriedly steps to the side and puts up his hand to deflect the punch, so Mu's punch barely grazes past his hand. But because of his insane speed and strength, smoke comes out of Kang Chial's glove, and he irritatedly thinks he's nasty. Then, as he continues throwing insanely powerful punches at him, Kang keeps dodging them, thinking no, there's no need to get angry. After all, he came there to fight. But he confusedly wonders why this is happening, if this is a habitual argument, and then he quickly distances himself from Mu. After that, Kang Chial lets out a deep breath and understands that he should think of this as a match. He tells himself to relax his body so it doesn't stiffen, and to loosen up as he takes stance and focuses hard. Then, as Mu comes rushing at him again, trying to punch him, Kang looks closely at his movement. At that last moment, Kang Chial finds an opening and manages to land 2 powerful consecutive punches using his left and right fists. Right then, he looks at his hand and surprisedly wonders if it doesn't feel good. Kang tells himself to loosen up and let the rotation power from his body be transmitted through his fingertips, and send it to him, as he throws an even power punch at Mu, which pushes him back. At that moment, Kang excitedly thinks this is fun, this is boxing, as he seems to be really enjoying the fighting as well. At the same time, Mu thinks that if he didn't have physical enhancement, it might have been dangerous. Now it's getting more bearable. He excitedly thinks this is fun, this is a fight, as he looks forward to how the fight goes with Kang Chial. Meanwhile, in another classroom, a student is peacefully sleeping at his desk. Suddenly, he hears a loud sound and hurriedly wakes up. But then, as he looks around in his night self-study class, he finds nothing out of the ordinary. After that, the student plans to sleep again, but he finds a chocolate at his desk along with a note. He picks up the note and finds it questioning why he's always sleeping when he comes. If he's a sleepwalker, immediately he looks at the time. Then Heejun, 20 years old, gets up, saying it's not too late, and hurriedly leaves the classroom along with his bag and the chocolate. But right at that moment, he hears the sound from before. He looks in that direction and finds Mu and Kang Chial fighting in their classroom. At that moment, Kang is throwing insanely fast punches at Mu, not giving him any opening to fight back. So, finding no other way, Mu suddenly lifts his leg and kicks Kang's chest hard, pushing him back quite a distance. At that, Kang Chial tells him it's boxing, but he frustratedly asks what's with the kicking. However, Mu asks what boxing is, which surprises Kang. Immediately, he lunges up again, asking who says they can only use their fists in a fight. Then he kicks Kang in the face with a lot of power, which badly hurts him, but before he could recover his stance, Mu repeatedly starts kicking him at an insane speed. All Kang can do is put up his arms to his sides and block all the kicks, while he surprisedly wonders if kicking is this heavy. After that, he gets startled to find Mu coming up to him to kick him, aiming for his leg, and worriedly thinks, no, if his lower body collapses. But right as he lands the kick, they both get surprised to find that it didn't cause much damage, as there wasn't that much strength to the kick. Then Mu quickly steps back to create some distance between them and worriedly thinks it's over. Yang physical enhancement effect has ended. And at that moment, Kang Chial calls him and asks with a devilish grin on his face if he lost his strength. He asks Mu if he's exhausted and laughs, seeing that Mu laughs as well, but out of anxiousness. After that, Kang Chial starts laughing even louder, like a lunatic, while Mu seems really worried and starts sweating heavily. At that moment, Heejun, who heard them fighting, looks at them from out of the entrance door and irritatedly thinks, laughing while fighting, how pathetic. After that, he turns around and walks away from there, thinking, such pitiful people. When he sees people like that, it's disgusting. Meanwhile, inside the classroom, Mu and Kang Chial get back to fighting, as Kang rushes at him and Mu raises his leg, thinking that for now, he'll fight defensively. But Kang comes up to him, looking really excited to fight, and punches him on the leg he just raised, telling him to turn right. Immediately, Mu starts spinning around on one leg. Right then, Kang tries to punch his face, shouting U-turn. Mu tries his best to dodge the attack, but it still grazes past his face. Because of that, he gets pushed back with a lot of force and falls to the floor with his back against the wall. He thinks with a nervous smile, with this body, he still can't beat his solid muscles, so if only he could use the third one. Right then, something comes to his mind, and he gets back on his feet, ready to fight Kang again, while some kind of particles seem to be shining near his hand. Immediately, he grabs the particles with his hand, makes a fist, and tries to punch Kang with everything he has. Seeing that, Kang Chial says, oh, he's very lively. But he easily manages to stop the punch by grabbing hold of his fist. Then he amusedly tells him he thought only his kicks were light, but his punches are light too. However, at that moment, Mu shoots the shiny particles, aiming at the side of Kang's face, and immediately, Kang Chial's face turns to the side, which startles him. Mu takes the opportunity and tries to punch his face with his other hand, but Kang somehow manages to dodge it, and the punch barely grazes his face, so he confusedly wonders what this is. He grabs hold of his other hand as well and frustratedly thinks he's dizzy, but the punches are weak, so he's okay. And so from then on, he tells himself to stay focused. But right at that moment, the shiny particles get shot again on the other side of his head, and he looks at it, wondering what else. Immediately, Mu smacks him in the face with his head, badly injuring him and pushing him far at the entrance door. At the same time, Mu looks at him and surprisedly wonders with a smile if this works. He understands that to use magic, they gather mana by condensing the mana around them into one place. But the only thing that reacts when gathering mana is not just mana. Many things in the atmosphere, like dust and oxygen, react together. As a result, impurities are burned away by the condensed mana, leaving only mana. But Mu realizes that if they gather mana on Earth where there is no mana, only the air condenses and doesn't disappear, realizing explosively, and says he didn't expect to use it this way. After that, he looks at Kang Chial as he's fallen on the floor and excitedly says this guy, he's interesting. So then, he kneels down and brings his mouth close to his ear, but right at that moment, Kang stops him and frightenedly asks if he's trying to neutralize him too, as he says absolutely not. He gets back on his feet and exhaustively tells Mu that he admits he lost, but they should not cross the line. Kang Chiol holds his face and frustratedly says he has something to say, but next time. He'll see him next time, as he leaves the classroom, while Mu seems annoyed as he couldn't make him his play. Some time later, as it starts to get dark, at Kin's house, Kin makes Yang carry a bunch of items and tells him that for now, this should be enough. Then, as Yang leaves her house, Kin excitedly tells him to let him know if they need anything else, and Yang tells her he got it. After that, he drops down and hurriedly heads back toward Li Ho's home. But on his way, he notices Kang Chiol walking the other way, holding his face and exhaustedly saying he left his bag. Yang remembers that he's the guy who did a hit and run on him, so he infuriatedly thinks that he's not just going to take it lying down. Kang keeps walking, saying his head is still spinning, but then suddenly, he gets confused to see Yang getting on the bag he was carrying. In the blink, he lunges straight at him, trying to take him down, looking really furious. Kang gets shocked by that and shouts, "Oh my gosh," as he punches him hard, as the reaction time of a boxer is 0.16 seconds. Immediately, Yang falls to the ground, getting badly injured, and Kang Chiol questions what this is, if it's a dog. After that, he leaves him there and heads back to his home, and a while later, Mu arrives there and gets confused to see Yang on the ground. The next morning, Mu heads out wearing a new spring and fall male uniform, which costs 40,000 won, and Yang, who's hiding inside a bag on his back, asks how he likes the new clothes. He informs Mu that it seems his good training is paying off. The vice captain is doing a great job as a subordinate. He adds that he'll stay hidden since it's better if he's not seen. Right then, Kang Chiol notices Mu walking by and walks up to him. Kang calls him and asks why he's wearing a uniform on weekend. Hearing that, Mu confusedly asks what is weekend. At that, Kang Chiol seems speechless and confusedly wonders what's up with this guy. Then he tells him that he had something to say anyway. Good timing. He asks Mu if he doesn't like fighting, and Mu replies that he fights because he has to. Hearing that, Kang recalls the face he makes while fighting and wonders who would believe that, looking at that face. Then he asks Mu with a smile if he wants to hang out with him, as if he hangs out with him, he won't be bored because of not being able to fight. Immediately after hearing that, a creepy, wide grin shows up on his face, and he excitedly tells him he's a good guy. Then he walks with him, telling him great, and to take him to a place where he can fight right away. Kang Chiol tells him no. He didn't mean he can fight right now. Hearing that, Mu furiously asks if he tricked him, if he really is a good guy, and Kang nervously tells him no, to listen to him, while Yang fumes with anger looking at him. Friday morning, at Jirogi High School, as a student wanted to enter a restricted restroom, a guy guarding the male restroom told him no, to go back. Inside the restroom, a buff-looking guy asks another guy how much he made. The other guy goes through his pocket and brings out 20,000 won. Seeing that, 19-year-old Yongjo furiously asks if he's insane, as that's nowhere near enough. The guy who brought the money frustratedly told him it's because of Iljimi. If he had just sold the bike secondhand properly, he could have made more. Hearing that, Yongjo bashed his fist on the wall beside him, furiously shouting "Bastard Iljimi," as if he wants to pay back both the principal and interest. This won't cut it, so he told his lackeys to call everyone. Now, on weekend evening, Kang Chiol brings Mu to a secluded area, while Mu excitedly keeps looking around for a fight. Kang explains to him that before, he used to beat people up in a blind rage, but after fighting him, he feels like he could actually enjoy it, which confuses him. But then, he asks if it wouldn't be better to fight him than waste time on weaklings. Kang Chiol tells him no need for words. They're bound to have a rematch soon, so no need to worry. At that moment, Mu finds a lot of smoke coming from an area and asks what that is. Kang looks in that direction and gets surprised to see so much smoke. Then he sniffs and understands that it's cigarette smoke. So he questions just how much they're smoking for the air to be this thick, and guesses this is highly like the people he's looking for, as he puts on his mask and safety goggles. At that moment, inside the thick smoke, two guys are busy gossiping while smoking cigarettes and vapes. After a while, Kang Chiol walks up to them, while another guy at a distance excitedly shouts, saying it's a jackpot. The guy asks someone if that's all, if they should max out the cards, and no reporting them as lost, asking if they got it. Hearing that, Kang asks if he's shaking people down. Hearing that, one of the guys close to him looks at him and starts laughing, tapping on his protective goggles. He asks who the hell he is, and since he's there, to take out his wallet. Right then, Kang Chiol punches the thug with a lot of force, badly hurting him, and after that, the thug realizes who he is. He terrifiedly shouts, trying to inform others that it's Iljimi, which startles the other thugs present there as they were ganging up on another person. Kang Chiol also gets surprised to find so many people there and thinks there's more of them than he expected. So he calls Mu and tells him to give him a hand, while Mu is already ready for a fight, wearing a hood of his own, trying to hide his face. Then Kang Chiol rushes at the thugs with everyone he has, telling Mu that they should go. However, Mu remains standing still, as he thinks he wants to fight, but he wonders if someone won't just hit him already. Right then, he finds one of the thugs holding his feet tightly, and frustratedly asking if he's with Iljimi, calling him a bastard. At that, Mu says oh, and asks if he just pinched him, if seriously, as his face turns cherry red due to excitement. He understands that it's a merciless participation, as immediately, he swings his fist at the thug, aiming to take down the guys. After a while, as the thugs got badly beaten up by Mu and Kang Chiol and fell to the ground, Mu thinks their attitude may be bad, but their bodies are weak. He understands that muscle condition is at an average human level, but their respiratory system is in terrible shape. After that, Kang picks up a wallet fallen on the ground and takes it to the girl the thugs were ganging up on, asking if she's okay. But then, he gets startled to find that it's the girl he goes to school with and is good friends with him. Right at that moment, even more guys show up, and Yang worriedly tells Mu, behind him. Yangzhou holds his phone with a text on it from one of his lackeys, informing him that Iljimi spotted in the alley near the snack shop, and infuriatedly tells Kang Chiol that he got him, calling him a piece of trash, Iljimi. Hearing that, Kang grabs hold of his baton and slides it out, telling him he wasn't trying to get mad. But right then, Mu starts walking toward Yangzhou, which surprises Kang. As Mu keeps heading toward Yangzhou, he excitedly thinks this is it, his favorite, and immediately, Yangzhou sends his underlings at them, telling them to wreck them. At that moment, Mu seems to be really enjoying it as the situation turned into a full-on brawl, and he starts punching and kicking thugs left and right, easily taking them down. Mu excitedly laughs, saying this is fun. But right then, out of nowhere, Yangzhou punches him on the face with an insane amount of force and bashes him to the ground. He irritatedly looks at Mu and asks why there are two Iljimis, if one of them is Iljimi. At that moment, Heejun, who was walking near that place, frustratedly says this took longer than he expected. He looks at his phone, thinking about someone, and wonders why they aren't answering him. Right then, he notices Yangzhou and the others fighting. The thugs continues beating Kang Chiol, shouting at him to die, while Mu remains fallen on the ground. And seeing that, Heejun annoyedly says pathetic idiots. Fighting again, absolutely disgusting. He questions if they have too much free time or what. But right then, he gets shocked to see the girl behind Kang, whom he's trying to protect, and wonders why. Heejun's father was a mixed martial arts champion. To Heejun, his father was always a strong man, but something went wrong. He grew stronger and stronger, and at some point, it felt like he had gone insane. His father became a strong man not just in the arena, but also at home, and to Heejun, his father looked like a monster. His mother ran away to escape the violence, but Heejun couldn't run away, because he had to protect his younger sibling. Heejun endured, even with wounds all over his body, and he faced the monster. He kept the image of the monster in his mind when it was at its strongest. He took it in with his eyes, endured, and protected, and when Heejun and his father's sizes were about the same, the incident happened. Heejun stood up to the monster because he felt his life was in danger. To him, fighting was survival. At that, his father infuriatedly called him an ungrateful bastard and asked if he doesn't remember what he did for him. As he'll kill them all, he'll kill both of them with his own hands. Hearing that, Heejun's eyes burned with rage, and that day, he killed the monster. He committed the crime of murder, but due to the court's sympathy for his circumstances, Heejun spent a year in a juvenile detention center and then returned to school. And after school, he worked hard to make money for himself and his younger sibling. He couldn't afford to be sick or injured, as his body was his entire fortune for himself and his sibling. Heejun swore he would never treat his body carelessly, so when he saw people who treated their bodies carelessly, he felt disgusted. Heejun believed that he would never act like those people, unless it poses a threat to his or his siblings' survival, as he gets shocked to find that the girl is Daljun, 19 years old, Heejun's younger sibling. He horrifiedly wonders if it's his younger sister Daljun, while Yongjo, looking at Mu, frustratedly says Iljami cut, and Yangyang worriedly calls for his master. Yongjo questions if Iljami is not there yet. Right then, Heejun rushes up to him from behind and kicks him in the legs hard. Immediately, Yongjo loses his balance and falls to the ground on his knees. Then Heejun tightly holds his head with his hand, and Yongjo frustratedly asks what the heck. Immediately, he bashes his head, face first to the ground with everything he has, which badly hurts Yongjo. Yangyang keeps calling Mu as his master, worriedly asking if he's alright. But right then, Heejun steps on his back for a moment, which suffocates him as he quickly runs toward his sister. Kang Chial gets worried to find himself slowly getting surrounded by the thugs. But then, all of a sudden, he gets confused to find the thugs in front of him getting tossed away one after another. As the last two thugs in front of Kang get tossed away by Heejun, Kang Chial gets terrified. Heejun calls him along with all the thugs there, disgusting bastards, and tells them with a terrifying look on his face that they shouldn't have crossed the line. After that, he starts walking toward his sister, and Kang frightenedly tells him to wait while covering Daljun, but Daljun calls him brother. Kang Chial gets surprised to hear that and asks if she has a brother, but right then, Heejun rushes up to him fast, and he frightenedly says damn. Before Kang could do anything to stop him, Heejun pushes him out of the way with a lot of force, making him fall to the ground. Then he tightly grabs his sister's hand and pulls her away from there, trying to escape as fast as possible, telling her to run. At that moment, Daljun's purse again falls to the ground, and right then, Heejun gets startled to find Yongjo standing in his path, looking really furious. Yongjo shouts at him, asking where he thinks he's going, calling him a crazy bastard, and who the hell he is if he's the third Iljami. At that, Heejun makes a fist and plans to punch him as hard as he can, as he's running straight at him. But then suddenly, Yongjo gets punched in the face from somewhere he didn't expect, as Mu punched him hard from underneath, making him lose his footing. As he falls to the ground, Mu has a really wide smile on his face, and Heejun confusedly wonders who the hell is this guy. After that, he runs past him and manages to escape from there along with his sister. And looking at Yongjo fallen on the ground, Mu starts laughing like a maniac. Right then, Kang Chial hurriedly asks what he's doing and tells him to cover his face. Some moments later, Yongjo growls in pain as he slowly gets up and looks in front of him, but by then, Kang and Mu manage to get quite a bit of distance away from him. Looking at them running, Yongjo boils with anger and says these damn bastards. Sometime later, after Kang and Mu reach Kang's hideout, Kang makes a drawing and tells Mu that this is the guy he saw earlier that day. His name is Yongjo. He explains that he's one of the well-known delinquents in the area, but there are 3 of them in total. High School Yongjo, High School Kim Chun-gu, High School Kwak Do-jeon, and together they are known as Godori. Kang adds that even though they're delinquents, they weren't really the type to cause major trouble. But recently, Godori members Yongjo and Kwak Do-jeon have been extorting money from people on the streets. He was wondering why, and it turns out all of those guys he just fought were the ones he beat up recently for trying to shake people down. And the one acting like their leader, Yongjo, so it's obvious they're the culprits. Hearing him tell him all that, Mu seems totally lost and asks what he's even talking about. He confusedly asks, delinquents, extortion, what the hell is Godori? At that, Kang Chial infuriatedly asks if he even knows anything, if his brain is just for decoration. Hearing that, Yangyang furiously growls and says he has endured enough, then he jumps out of the bag he was hiding in and shouts at Kang, calling him a bastard, which startles him. He continues that he can't hold back any longer and yells at Kang Chial, asking how dare he speak like that to his master. But then, Kang confusedly asks if it's a talking frog, which makes Yangyang even more furious, as he asks if he just called him a frog. Then Mu explains to Kang that this is Yangyang, his friend, something like that, and Kang nervously tells him he's pretty suspicious. He has an oddly poor grasp of basic knowledge, plus, he's walking around with a talking frog. Yangyang again shouts, saying he's not a frog. So Kang asks if it could be that he, right then, Mu tells him with a smile. He has sharp observation, calling him human as he is. Mu says a god, and Kang Chial an alien at the same time, which surprises both of them. Then Kang asks if he said God, as it's more like an idiot, and Mu asks what the hell an alien is, while Yangyang furiously keeps asking how dare he call him a frog. All of this is taking place inside the class president's room, while she's mending Mu's shirt, so she annoyedly asks why they're at her house. After a while, as Yangyang is sitting on Kin's lap, gathering information using her phone, Kin tells him to stay as long as he likes and giggles, as she's really excited by that. At that same time, Kang Chial tells Mu, so in the end, that big guy he fought, that bastard Yongjo is their target. He recalls that terrified expression on Daljun's face as she was being shaken by the goons, and frustratedly thinks he really doesn't like what he's been up to. Mu thinks about Yongjo and wonders if he's talking about that guy, as thanks to him, he got to feel it again after such a long time. The difference in weight class, Mu understands that it took him a long time to overcome that, but he excitedly thinks he never expected to feel it again like this. But he tells Kang Chial that with his current body, it's impossible, he needs training. Kang tells him yeah. He does seem to tire out quickly, so he asks if he wants to come train at his gym. Mu immediately nods his head sideways, as he asks if they don't only focus on bare-knuckle fighting. He says it's not bad, but it's not the kind of training he needs. He thinks carefully about it and says he needs something diverse, rougher, more intense. A little more, he questions how he should put it. Right then, Yang finds something on Kin's phone and hurriedly brings it to Mu, calling him master as he asks how about this. Mu gets surprised to see a live stream playing on the phone. And in the video, someone shouts, a direct hit to the solar plexus, as a guy punches another guy on the back hard. Immediately, the guy who got hit falls to the ground, badly hurt, and the streamer worriedly says he can't give up, then she says the challenge failed. After that, the streamer tells the audience that makes it 13 consecutive wins, and anyone can challenge, win, and get 1,000,001 instantly, every weekend at 7 p.m. in Siap Park. Seeing that, Mu seems amazed, then Kang looks at the Steam and says wait, this guy. He gets surprised to see that name Kim Chun-gu, as he questions if he isn't part of Godori too. Mu gets surprised to hear about Godori, as he asks if the other guy earlier wasn't part of it too. Kang tells him yeah, that's right. Then Mu gets on his feet and says with a wide grin on his face, alright, he has set his target. First, defeat Yongjo, then defeat Godori. In the meantime, in the Divine Realm, Lucifer keeps throwing powerful attacks after powerful attacks on the domain of the Earth God. However, after the dust settles, the barrier on Earth still remains intact and without a scratch, which makes Lucifer burn with anger. He recalls Mu breaking the barrier on his domain, thinking that guy makes it look so easy, and frustratedly wonders what makes him worse than him. What the hell? Lucifer infuriatedly questions why he can't do it, and on Earth, Yongjo is in similar situation, as he shouts hell. Then he furiously starts punching a restroom door in front of him, shouting Iljami, bastard Iljami. After that, he walks away from there, leaving deep punch marks on the door, and a guy who was just doing his business inside the restroom frightenedly asks if he's in a big hurry. Then, after Yongjo walks out of the public restroom, he frustratedly tells one of his lackeys who was waiting outside that in the end, he didn't get anything. No money, couldn't catch Iljami. At that, the lackey nervously tells him well, he did get something, this as he brings out the purse Daljun dropped and hands it to Yongjo. Holding the purse, Yongjo asks what this is as he shakes it hard, but only a few coins come out of it. So he asks his underling with a terrifying look on his face if he wants to die, and the guy frightenedly tells him, no, these kids' days, with cash. But right then, Daljun's student card falls out of the purse, which is from Baidialgi High School. Yongjo picks it up and looks at it closely, then he says with an excited look on his face, it's usable. The next day, Mu and Yang head somewhere together as Yang tells Mu where to go, looking at a map, and the class president drew it for them. After a while, Yang tells Mu that he can go left at the next alley, then to just go one more step. Suddenly he releases a fart, so he says excuse me and giggles. Right at that moment, a guy was walking his dog, but as they ran past them, the fart smell entered the dog's nose, which got taken as an embarrassment to it. Then the dog looks at Yang with rage as it realizes that it was his doing, and immediately bites him by lunging at him, which severely hurts him. Still, Yang tries to take in the pain and not make a loud noise, so as not to let others know, which confuses Mu while the dog, along with its owner, continues jogging. But it glances back at Yang while he's still feeling the pain, and infuriatedly thinks, how dare such a lowly creature do this, as once he can use magic again, he'll definitely find it and kill it. After some more time, Yang tells Mu this is it, as they reach the park where the fighting takes place, and there's a big line of applicants. The girl who is streaming is taking the application, saying accepted, next, rejected, next, rejected, next, then it's Mu's turn. Looking at him, the girl surprisedly asks if he's wearing a school uniform, as it's the weekend, then she asks if it's Baidulgi. Hearing that, Mu confusedly asks what, and immediately Yang whispers to him, yes, this is Baidulgi High School. He tells him to just say it's correct. So Mu tells the girl it's right, then the girl asks what is his experience, to which Mu gets confused. The girl tells him anything. Boxing, wrestling, street fighting, it's for broadcasting purposes. Hearing that, Mu wonders how long it has been, and starts counting 1, 2, 3, 4 at the same time. Yang whispers, as far as he knows, and starts thinking about it. Then Mu tells the girl with a smile. His fighting experience is about 3 million years, which shocks the applicant standing behind him. However, the girl who is taking the applications finds it amusing, as she says this is fun, and tells him that he's accepted. After that, she tells Mu that the entry fee is 50,000 won, which surprises him, but he asks if there's anything else, as Yang brings out all the money he has with him. Back in the class president's house, Kin calls her mom and asks if she has seen her wallet, the pink one. It was Yang who took the wallet and empties it for the entry fee, while the girl counts 44,000 won, 45,000 won. She finishes counting and says it's 46,000 won. She tells Mu that he's short by 4,000, but fine, she'll let it slide. After that, Mu walks to the side, and the girl calls for the next applicant. Then Mu looks around for the person looking for. Suddenly, he notices someone who matches the stature and looks at the person's arms carefully. Mu finds that the size and density of those muscles, they're quite well trained, so he excitedly thinks that's the guy he saw the previous day, Godari. Some time later, the small girl starts streaming, saying the match is about to start, and requests all participants to gather. Then she says they should introduce the champion first. She runs around the champion, announcing, a champion who has won for 13 consecutive weeks, Whistlegoo, 3rd year. But right then, Mu walks up to the champion and gets ready to fight, which confuses the small girl. Mu excitedly thinks that a match means both sides have already agreed to fight. In that case, there's no need to wait for a preemptive strike. Proceeds to punch the champion. But immediately, the small girl stops him, shouting at him to wait. She stands in front of the champion and asks Mu what he's doing, if he didn't watch the broadcast, as she brings out a paper from her pocket and shows it to Mu, telling him that he can't just start fighting like that. The girl explains that it's a tournament format, as the paper says that there are a total of 8 competitors, and the winner will get the 1 million won reward. Some time later, it's finally Mu's turn to fight as the small girl announces, and now, the 4th match continues. First, she says about Mu, with a self-proclaimed fighting experience, a whopping 3 million years, 3 million year fighter, as Mu excitedly steps forward. Then the girl announces that the opponent is the master of Chinese martial arts prize disciple, Chinese international student of the life form boxing, as Mu's opponent steps forward as well. The people gathered there seem really excited to see the fight, as some say they're betting on Chinese martial arts and some say they're betting on Mu, while Yang says, finally, it seems it's the master's match. He believes that of course, the master is going to win. But right, he notices a dog, tied to a bar and barking loudly at him. Yang recognizes that it's that dog who bit him and infuriatedly thinks it's that bastard. Then he lunges forward, flies over the audience, and lands in the fighting area, which surprises Mu. Finding him beside him, Mu questions what Yang is doing, while Yang locks his eyes on the dog and furiously tells him to come there. Immediately, the dog rapidly shakes his head and frees himself from the collar and runs into the fighting area, which surprises the people there as they ask what this is, if it's a dog. As the dog stands beside the Chinese martial artist and barks at Yang, the Chinese martial artist confusedly asks his dog Cerberus what that is, how he untied it. But then, seeing that, the small girl who's doing the live streaming excitedly says crazy, amazing. She streams the scenes and tells everyone that this match is a double match, so the matchup in this contest, where the master and pet fight as a team. 3 million years fighter versus Chinese martial arts international student, and Yang versus Cerberus. Looking at Yang, the audience asks what this is, if it's a lizard, if it has horns, and wings too. Right then, the small girl announces that the match begins. After that, the martial artist bows at Mu and asks if he's familiar with Sanghyunkwon, as Sanghyunkwon is a martial art that imitates the movements of animals. He explains that for an unarmed human, defeating an animal is nearly impossible, as he shows him his sharp nails. Then the martial artist starts rushing at Mu, baring his fangs at him, telling him it's dangerous, so he requests him to be careful. As he gets close to him, he lunges at him using his Sanghyunkwon tiger style, and tries to hit him hard, saying, using the feline family's characteristic smooth movements to lower the opponent's guard, then following up with a powerful strike. But before he could land a hit, Mu hits him straight in the stomach hard, and makes the martial artist fall to the ground. He tells him that even if he imitates them, it's still just a human's movement, so there's nothing special. After that, the martial artist gets back on his feet while holding his stomach as he finds it really painful, and thinks it was only one exchange, but he felt it. He looks at Mu and realizes it's a wall, so he releases a deep breath and understands that he has no choice but to use that. The Chinese martial artist recalls his master telling him that that is a last resort. It's dangerous, so humans must never use it, but he apologizes to his master as he prepares to use the technique and puts his hands on the ground, which surprises Mu. In the meantime, after fighting for a while, Yang looks at Cerberus and exhaustively thinks, damn it, he has only been using magic, so he still sucks at hand-to-hand combat. Right then, Cerberus starts rushing at him, which worries Yang. Then, Cerberus stops right in front of him and starts moving side to side at a tremendous speed, creating afterimages of himself. The announcer girl runs up to him and asks everyone if they can see that. The Chihuahua, it looks like there are 3 of them, so she questions if this is a ninja dog. Then the Cerberus rush at Yang, using their Chihuahua-type skill, and Yang worriedly shouts, saying the one in the middle is the real one. So he hurriedly tries to attack that one using his hand, but misses as it's the incorrect one. Then Cerberus bites into his neck hard, which causes him immeasurable pain. Then he falls to the ground, unable to move. Seeing that, the announcer girl says, an incredible feint followed by a chain of attacks. Cerberus takes overwhelming control of the fight. Meanwhile, on the butler's side, she asks wait, what this is, as she gets startled to find the Chinese martial artist on his 4 legs like an animal. Then the martial artist uses his skill, Sanghyunkwon, quadrupedal mode, and rushes straight at Mu with a tremendous amount of force and speed. Seeing him running like that, the audience starts laughing out loud, saying this is insane. He's running on all 4s, and film it. They say this is hilarious, Sanghyunkwon is so lame, while the martial artist's master stands in the crowd and cries in silence, thinking he told him not to do that in front of people. But seeing that martial artists move like that, Mu worriedly steps back a bit and thinks, his stance is low, down below, as it's tiger style. Right then, as the martial artist gets close to Mu, he lunges at him and shreds his face with his claw, making him feel as if his face has been torn apart by a real tiger. So he holds his face due to the intense pain, while the martial artist lands back on the ground. Mu understands that if that hand hadn't been a human's hand, but a beast's front paw, he'd be dead. After that, he looks at the martial artist, but immediately the martial artist starts rushing at him again, which startles Mu. Then the martial artist manages to graze Mu's ear using his cat style, bite into Mu's leg using his Chihuahua style, and hit him on the shoulder hard using horse kick from behind style. After getting hit so badly, Mu frustratedly thinks he has never seen a human use their muscles like this for quadrupedal movement, so he can't predict his movements. But he finds it really exciting and wonders what he should do. Right then, he notices Cerberus beside him, fighting Yang. He focuses on Cerberus's back and thinks right, if he just thinks of the martial artist as any other 4-legged animal, the weakness should be the same, as he again comes rushing at him. But right at that moment, Mu crouches down a bit, and then uses sudden muscle expansion to jump up insanely high, which startles the martial artist. All the people around there get amazed to see that and film it, saying that jump was insane. While the martial artist worriedly thinks, oh no, from above, before he could finish, Mu comes down and lands his feet on his head and back, badly bashing him to the ground. He says that the weakness of quadrupeds is the sky, as the martial artist finds it hard to move anymore, and the match ends. The crowd there gets ecstatic seeing all that, and starts cheering for Mu, while some shout no, Sanghyunkwon, they bet on it. But then, Mu looks to the side, wondering what about Yang side, and Cerberus looks at him with fiery eyes as he's stepping on his master, while Yang is fallen on the ground. Then he stares at Cerberus with a terrifying look in his eyes, and immediately, Cerberus uses his Chihuahua-type style, strong, weak, strong, and gives up. Seeing that, the announcer tells everyone, a proper loss for the Chinese exchange student using Sanghyunkwon, and Cerberus forfeits, giving the win to the 3-million-year fighter. Then Mu's eyes fall on the Chinese martial artist's ear as he wants to make him his play, and proceeds to do it. Seeing that, the announcer worriedly shouts, asking what he's doing, then she tells him no, that's forbidden, while Yang keeps sulking, thinking if only he could have used magic. After that, the matches continue. Result of match 5, 13-time champion advances to the final. Coming up, match 6. The announcer girl announces to everyone the 6th match that will determine the 2nd finalist, the 3-million-year fighter who defeated Sanghyunkwon. Facing him is the representative of boxing, bronze in games, but diamond class in boxing, boxing diamond seed. But it's just Quack Chiol, and his record against Mu, 1 fight, 1 loss, so he looks frustrated. Mu looks at him carefully, then he recognizes him and excitedly says they meet again, which worries him. But he gets ready to fight, thinking that as long as he doesn't let his guard down like last time. At that moment, the announcer girl says who will be the one to face the champion, and tells them to fight. Immediately, Mu and Quack Chiol go running headfirst into one another, as Quack Chiol thinks he will win. Then the two proceed to punch each other, and both of their fists clash together right at that instant. Mu feels tremendous pain throughout his arm muscles, as if they burst. Immediately, he takes back his hand and cries out in pain. At that, Quack Chiol amusedly tells him that because of him, he's stuck in a cast, so it serves him right, calling him a son of a dog. However, Mu keeps thinking pain. He thinks with a wide, creepy grin on his face. Right now, he's alive. Seeing that, Quack Chiol gets chills down his spine, and thinks, as expected, he's a dangerous guy. But if he stays calm and handles him carefully, there won't be a problem. He decides that he'll throw jabs to shake him up, so he starts throwing rapid jabs using his other arm. And Mu puts up his arms in front of him to block the attacks. Then Quack Chiol decides to finish it off with a kick, as he believes he only thinks of him as a boxer, so he won't see it coming. However, right then, Mu notices his leg muscles flexing and understands that he's preparing for a kick. After that, Quack Chiol excitedly tells him it's a kick, calling him a bastard, and he didn't see this coming, as he tries to kick him. But immediately, Mu punches him in the leg, excitedly telling him right turn, the same as Quack Chiol did with him. Because of that, Quack Chiol starts spinning out of control. Right after that, before he could regain his footing, Mu punches him in the face, making him turn the opposite direction, saying, "You turn." Then, Quack Chiol falls to the ground, unable to move as he's badly hurt. Immediately, Mu lunges at his other ear, which he didn't bite before. The audience gets worried to see that and says he's doing that again, so to stop him, while Lee Ho's classmate standing in the crowd, who also got his ear torn off, gets PTSD. After that, the announcer girl announces that the finals continue, the undefeated champion, as the champion woman steps forward. Versus, he's only had 2 matches, but what a performance, the 3 million ear fighter, as Mu steps forward. Then the announcer girl says that the winner gets 1 million won, and is about to say that the match starts. At that moment, Mu excitedly thinks, he's fighting 3 times a day. And then, he rushes forward to fight the champion, right as the announcer girl finishes saying, starts. But right then, the champion tries to kick him in the face by lifting her leg high up in the air, using her skill, crescent kick. Mu immediately puts up his arms and barely manages to block the attack, but still gets hurt, so he worriedly wonders if that's a kick, as that's fast. Immediately after that, the champion keeps throwing rapid kicks using both her legs, pushing him back while he tries his best to keep dodging all the attacks. After a while, Mu seems really exhausted and thinks her attacks are as heavy as he weight class. As expected, Godori isn't easy to deal with. He understands that more than anything, her reach is too long, so he makes the weird face from before and wonders what he should do. The champion gets surprised to see that and asks if he's hurt somewhere, while Mu thinks he can't get close then. He again lunges at the champion with everything he has, but immediately, the champion kicks him in the face, using her skill, Crescent Kick 2, which badly hurts him again. Immediately, she follows it up with a knee to his face, which hurts him even more. However, right at that moment, Mu thinks he'll extend his with kicks too, as he uses a spinning kick while taking the hit. Seeing that, the champion hurriedly pulls back her head and barely manages to dodge the attack, so she surprisedly wonders if it's a back whip kick, while her cap falls off her head. After that, Mu lands his feet back on the ground and nervously thinks he's too short, but he understands that in many ways, the champion's body isn't suited for fighting. After that, the champion gets back into fighting position and says okay, then she rushes at Mu in lightning speed, trying to kick him in the face as hard as she can. At that, Mu hurriedly puts up his arms and tries to step back, but the champion stretches out her leg as far as she can and still manages to hit Mu with an immense amount of force. Then the champion proceeds to follow it up with another kick to the side of his head, and Mu thinks all of her attacks are high. So he quickly goes under in the blink of an eye and manages to dodge the kick, which startles the champion. Then, as she lands on her feet on the ground, she gets confused to see him on his 4 legs in front of her, like how the Chinese martial artist was fighting. Mu uses the imitation fist technique, quadrupedal mode, exactly like how the Chinese martial artist was fighting. as he excitedly thinks if he lowers her stance with this technique, he might find an opening. Then Mu starts rushing at the champion using his forelegs fast, which worries the champion, and she hurriedly proceeds to kick him in the face, saying what a joke. However, Mu quickly sidesteps, at lightning speed, still on his forelegs, and manages to dodge a bunch of kicks easily. Seeing that, the champion frustratedly thinks she's not used to low attacks, though, a plan comes to her mind. The audience seems exhilarated to see Mu fight like that, while the Chinese martial artist finds it hard to believe that the quadrupedal mode he has trained in for 5 years, he's using it so easily. The people around there amazedly say, "Oh, he dodges everything," and ask if it isn't actually a good thing, quadrupedal stance. They also say that imitation fist is insane, as he hasn't been hit even once since using it. But some say no, they bet on the champion, while the martial artist's master seems happy to hear people praise his technique. Right then, Mu dodges another tremendously powerful kick from the champion and starts running circles around her with an insane amount of speed, creating shadow images of himself. Seeing that, the champion frustratedly says, "Damn it, he's like a cockroach." Suddenly, she senses something coming at her from behind, so she quickly swings her leg and kicks the object behind her. But then, she gets shocked to find that it's her hat. Immediately, Mu takes the opportunity and goes in front of her in an instant. And before the champion could look back to the front and do anything to stop him, Mu uses his imitation fist technique, Behemoth Fist. He was originally from Earth, but he hadn't stayed there exclusively. 3,000 years before becoming Earth's deity, he moved to Lucifer's designated planet, though not of his own will. Unlike Earth, that place was overflowing with mana. As a result, animals evolved rapidly and came to be known as monsters. After Mu went to that planet, he grew stronger by hunting those monsters, finding it really exciting. And among the quadrupedal monsters Mu encountered, the strongest was the behemoth. So while fighting the champion of the tournament, Mu uses his imitation fist technique, Behemoth Fist, thinking about rearranging the muscles to resemble that creature's as closely as possible. As he does that, then Mu hits the champion's stomach with a lot of force and throws her back quite far. The champion hits her back against a park bench and gets badly hurt, causing her to growl in pain. But right then, before she could even get back on her feet, Mu lunges at her and tries to hit her with everything he has, using his Behemoth Fist. However, right at that moment, the announcer girl steps between them and annoyedly announces that out-of-ring disqualification. Match over. Then she tells everyone in her announcer voice that the 13-win champion loses by out-of-ring disqualification. A surprising result. Victory goes to the 3-million-year-old fighter. Hearing that, the people gathered there disappointedly ask if there was an out-of-ring disqualification. Why the final ended so anticlimactically. The announcer girl tells the viewers of her stream with a smile that that's it for that day's broadcast. She'll see them again next week. And stops streaming. Then she calls Mu with an irritated look on her face and gestures to him, telling him that she'll give him the prize money, so to come with her. After that, the girl takes Mu inside a secluded alleyway, and as she keeps walking, she says win, and he gets a prize of 1 million. She's sure that's what she said. But she tells Mu that actually, what he has won so far is the right to challenge for the final, which confuses Mu. The little girl explains to him that to get the 1 million won, there's still one opponent left. And that opponent is. She immediately turns around and hits the dead center of Mu's chest hard by lunging at him, using her skill, Flying Knee Kick. Getting hit so bad, Mu cries out loud because of the immense pain and falls to the ground. Then the small girl tells him with a devilish grin, she's his final opponent, as she's the real whistling Godori Kin Chungu. Mu saw it. He knew an ambush was coming from the movement of the muscles. He didn't dodge it so he could fight again. But maybe this time, he should have dodged it. It was too fatal. He couldn't fight anymore as Godori runs away from there fast, and Mu still remains fallen on the ground. After that, Godori walks out of the way as the 13-win champion is waiting for her, and tells her they should go, as they almost lost that million, and releases a sigh. The champion apologizes to her as she should have taken care of it herself, and they both start running from there. As Godori says no, as long as it's resolved, it's fine, so they should get out of there, and leave. Seeing them leave, Mu tries his best to crawl after them, strugglingly telling them not to go, as he can still fight, but he finds it impossible to move his body any further. So he calls Yang Yang for the healing orb, to take out the healing orb. However, Yang Yang is nowhere to be seen. At that same time, Li Ho's classmate, who got beaten up by Mu, hurriedly heads somewhere, holding something in his jacket. He frustratedly wonders how things ended up like this. He believes that the gambling site his Chiao Hyung introduced, that was where it all started. The student frustratedly thinks he just wanted to make a bit of pocket money, but it spiraled out of control, and the 5 million won in his mom's bank account. He only meant to recover the lost money and put it back, but the 5 million won vanished in 10 minutes. He understands that if he gets caught, he's dead, and the only way to recover it is, of course, to win it back through gambling. The student recalls that his Chiali said there's a place that gives students loans using collateral, so he thinks if it's something valuable enough to bring with him, he might just get saved. So he goes to the place that could give him a loan and drops the thing he brought with him on the desk in the office. Seeing that, the person in charge of that place asks what the hell this is, then the guy unties his jacket, and it's Young inside, tied up and unable to move. The student who brought him shows an image on his phone, telling the man that this is called a tuatara. He should know that it's an endangered species that only lives in New Zealand, and tells him to look. As the man looks at the image, the guy asks if it doesn't look exactly the same. But this one's a mutant, so it has horns and wings too. He adds that they sell it to a collector. They could probably name any price. Hearing that, the man looks to the side, at a person sitting on the other side of the room. The student desperately continues that he even asked an AI, and it said something like this could go for hundreds of millions. Then the person sitting on the other side nods his head in approval, and the man in charge of that place gives the student some money. As the student leaves the place, he annoyedly asks what. An AI said it's worth at least tens of millions of won, but if they're only offering 1 million. Then he puts the money in his pocket and heads home, saying, whatever, he found it anyway. He'll just use this to get something better. The student immediately starts gambling again, saying he should pull the trigger right away. And nice, totally a real man move. At the same time, another guy enters the loan shark's office. After the guy heads inside, he offers the man in charge Lee Daljun's student ID, telling him, while trying to sound like a girl, that he'll use this as collateral. The man in charge finds it really suspicious, so he tells the person to take off their hood, and the person does that. However, the person has tried his best to look really close to Daljun, so as the man in charge tries to match his face with Daljun's. He tells him that he has edited the photo a lot, and student ID as collateral is worth 500,000 won. After subtracting the interest up front, that's 450 due in 1 week. After that, the guy who can for the loan heads out of the office and quickly walks away from there. Right then, Youngjo, who was waiting outside for him, calling him, which startles the guy. Youngjo asks if it was a success, and the guy tells him with a smile while showing him the money. Easy, obviously. But he asks why he's the only one going, as that place was seriously scary. And Youngjo tells him he can't borrow money from there. Well, he'll just win again with this and pay it back soon, as they both walk together. Meanwhile, inside the Grandma Money Collateral Loans office, the real boss of the office, who was sitting on the other side, keeps spinning Daljun's student ID on his finger. The person in charge of talking to the loan recipients tells him, judging by his look, it doesn't seem like he can pay it back, so he asks if that'll be okay, calling him young master. And the young master tells him, it doesn't matter. Right then, he throws Daljun's student ID and it sticks to a wooden board, burying deep. A bunch more are stuck on the board, really close to Yong's body, who's tied up at the center, as the young master explains that not being able to pay doesn't mean there's no way to collect. The next day in school, at Liho's close, the class president gets shocked to hear that Yong is missing. Seeing that reaction, Mu says so he didn't come to her place either, as he tries to explain what happened the previous day at the arena. But before he could say that, Kin cries out for Yong, saying oh no. She runs around desperately looking for him, saying he can't have gone far yet, and calls for him. After that, she runs out of the classroom looking for Yong, shouting his name and asking where he is. While Mu seems speechless and the guy who left Yong at the loan shark's office keeps sweating heavily. In a matter of seconds, the class president enters senior class, Kang Chial's classroom, looking for Yong, seeing that Kang and the other students seem confused. A while later, Liho's homeroom teacher brings the class president back to the class, irritatedly asking why she's heading toward the 12th grade classroom, and tells her to get her head on straight. Then Kin goes, sits at her desk, and worriedly tells Mu that she couldn't find him. She went into every visible classroom. At that, Mu tells her of course he's not there because he didn't go missing there, which surprises Kin, and she asks why he's saying that now. Then she asks where it was, and Mu hands her the map that they followed to reach the park where the tournament took place. Kin gets even more surprised by that, as looking at the map, she asks Mu if she didn't draw this. Mu points her to the place on the map where he fought Godori and tells her that Yang disappeared there. Immediately, Kin grabs the map and runs out of the classroom as fast as she can. Seeing that, their homeroom teacher runs after her, furiously asking if she's not coming. Then, as he grabs hold of Kin, she screams and begs him to let her go, just this once. But after struggling for a bit, the teacher brings her back to the class. After that, Kin sits back at her desk, looking really frustrated. And at that moment, Mu thinks what a shame. He's so disappointed. He recalls all of his fights on Earth in the last few days, Yangzhou, the 13-win champion, and lastly, Godori. Mu infuriatedly thinks he didn't get to finish that fight properly. And what's even more frustrating is this body's condition, as he looks at his hand and finds it shaking because of putting it through so much fighting. He thinks just a few muscle bursts, and he's already overworked, so he understands that there's still a long way to go. But he excitedly says that's why it loves it, as because of it, he gets to fight fiercely. So Mu happily decides to heal up with a recovery orb and get back to fighting, while the class president still seems really worried for Yang. As it gets evening, Kin shouts that class is over, then she tightly holds Mu's hand and drags him out of the classroom, telling him to hurry. As they're going down the stairs, Kang Chial notices them and asks the class president what's going on now. She was freaking out earlier too. Kin tries to tell him it's serious, Yang is missing, but right then, Daljum comes there and asks Kang if he has seen her wallet, as she wonders where it went. Seeing her, Kin surprisedly asks Kang if that is his girlfriend. Hearing that, both Kang and Daljun seem disgusted, and Kin says oh sorry. Then she cries and explains to the two of them that she lost her pet Yang, so she asks if they could help her look for it. Hearing that, Daljun asks if she said a pet, what kind. Mu tells her it's a dragon. He explains that it used to be big, but recently it shrank. He shows it with his hands, saying about this size. He thinks carefully and adds, skin tone that kills the appetite, but the back is surprisingly soft, perfect for riding, and it has a recovery orb inside its body. Mu continues that if he finds him and recovers, he can fight again, but before he could finish his sentence, he finds Kin holding Kang and Daljun's hands and dragging them down the stairs. Then Mu excitedly thinks it's perfect. He'll leave the Yang search to her and focus on healing and training. Meanwhile, inside one of the washrooms of Yangzhou's school, as Yangzhou is busy with his deed, he starts gambling on his phone and keeps thinking, please, please. As it gets to the crucial moment, he starts saying it out loud, and then he suddenly bashed the washroom door hard with his head, shouting hell. The wound he got because of that is very painful, but he excitedly says this is insane. He won. Yangzhou looks back at his phone, happily saying that was seriously his last coin, and he hit the jackpot. He amazedly says wow and questions how much this is worth, as it's no wonder he can't quit this, and laughs. After that, Yangzhou decides that first, he needs to pay back the debt before interest kicks in. But then, his happiness slowly turns to worry as he starts sweating heavily, and wonders why he can't cash out. 6 days have passed since the launch of the Yang search squad, while Mu is busy looking for fighting opponents. A massive search was carried out to find Yang, but not even a single scale of Yang was found. One evening, after searching for quite some time, Kin and Daljun sit at a park bench, looking really exhausted. Kin tells Daljun that she's really sorry, especially since she's a senior. Daljun tells her no, it's fine, she wasn't exactly a studyholic anyway. Hearing that, Kin tells her she's really grateful, calling her sister, and thinks about Mu, frustratedly saying he's the one who owns the pet and hasn't done a thing, that jerk. Then she gets up and runs off, requesting Daljun to take a break. She'll go grab some drinks or something. Daljun waves at her with a smile on her face, but right at that moment, the guy from the collateral loan company shows up behind her, holding her student ID. After a while, as Kin returns to that spot with something for them to drink, she gets surprised to find Daljun nowhere. A few days ago at school, Mu stood in front of his homeroom teacher with a creepy smile on his face, and the teacher nervously asked what, why. Right then, Mu started sniffing all around his body, and the teacher got even more nervous and confused. He carefully observed his muscles and thought right, this is how it should be, while the homeroom teacher started sweating. Then Mu poked his muscle, telling him it looks like he has been training in this area recently, as his muscles are nicely torn. The teacher found it stimulating and asked why he's speaking so informally. After that, Mu told him it very impressive muscle size, and the teacher gladly thinks he does know a thing or two. Then Mu told him with a smile that he has made up his mind. He will join his training too, which again confused the teacher. In the present time, as the lone shark holds Daljun's student ID in his hand, Daljun desperately requests him to give it back. She shouts, saying it's hers. At that, the guy in charge tells her, yeah, it's hers, alright. But he adds with a terrifying look on her face that it's what she left behind when he borrowed money. At that, Daljun gets up and frustratedly asks what he's talking about, as she has never borrowed any money. Right then, the other guy, who's sitting at the other side of the room, bashes his fist on the table in front of him, furiously shouting hell. He says that she borrowed money and now she's playing dumb. He tells her to just stop it already as it's getting annoying. The guy in front of Daljun also tells her to just stop it. He has this because she borrowed it, as he shows her her student ID. Then, finding no other choice, Daljun looks at the guy in front of her and nervously asks how much she has to pay. The guy tells her that the principal is 500,000 won, and since the deadline passed, add another 50,000 won for interest. Hearing that, Daljun says it's not even that much and tells him that she'll pay it back within a week. The guy tells her to make sure to come on time, not to make him come looking for her. He knows her school and class as he tosses her student ID into a drawer. After that, Daljun proceeds to leave the office, irritatively telling him to hold on tight to his student ID as she'll come back to get it. As she leaves the room, she shuts the door behind her, which makes a loud noise and startles the guys inside. At that, the guy in charge of the office irritatedly says, "Kids these days are hopeless," which touches a nerve with the other guy. He infuriatedly asks the guy in charge what if he's saying that for him to hear, and the guy hurriedly tells him no, he wasn't talking about him, calling him young master. Then the young master asks if he should call his uncle, and the guy begs him saying, no, please, anyone but the boss. Some time later, as it starts to get dark, the guy in charge of the office locks the office from the outside and leaves the key on a plant pot near the entrance. Then he leaves, releasing a sigh and saying it's exhausting having to serve a brat like him, and frustratedly adds, damn, such a little thing. As the guy walks down the stairs, Daljun, who was waiting on the upper floor, gets down and walks toward the office, thinking with a smile, she'll just take the student ID and be done with it, as there's no way she's giving money to scammer bastards. She first tries rotating the knob on the entrance but it doesn't budge, then she notices the key on the plant pot nearby. Then Daljun uses the key to open the lock on the door and enters the office, but at that time, someone else is also there. After Daljun enters the office, she slowly heads toward the desk, carefully not to make any noise, as she opens the drawer and brings out her student ID, thinking she got it. Then quickly proceeds to leave the office and head for home. But suddenly, some kind of sound starts coming out of a cabinet to the side of the room, which startles her. She slowly looks back, then she walks up to the cabinet and carefully opens it, looking really worried. After that, she finds a cage inside, and something moving inside the cage. Then suddenly, Yong starts shouting to let him out from inside the cage. Daljun gets frightened by that and hurriedly steps back, but right then, her back touches someone else's back. Then she quickly turns around, heavily sweating because of worry, and gets shocked to find that it's Yongjo. Immediately, Yongjo puts a hand on her mouth as she's about to scream out loud, asking what, who. Then he gestures for her to keep quiet, and looking closely at her face, he gets surprised, realizing that it's the wallet's owner. So Yongjo asks Daljun if she came to get her student ID too, as he too, and suggests that they should just quietly do their own things. Daljun agrees to do that and puts away his hand. After a while, she hurriedly leaves the building with her ID and Yongyong. Looking at Yongyong, she amazedly thinks, wow, they really look exactly the same. She recognized it right away. This is definitely the one. So Daljun infuriatedly thinks about the lone sharks, stealing someone's pet too, what awful people they are. However, there's a surveillance camera at the staircase, recording her. The next morning, on their way to school, Daljun hurriedly runs up to Kim Yujin, calling her name while holding her bag with both hands, and Kim looks back at her. Then she gets surprised to find that it's Lee Daljun and asks where she went, as she suddenly disappeared, and she was so worried. Daljun apologizes to her as she was so out of it. But still, here, as she opens her backpack and Yongyong pops out from inside, which shocks Kim. She immediately pulls him close to her and holds him tightly, crying and asking where he went, as she was so worried. Right at that moment, Yongyong sniffs and finds Mu's smell, so he jumps out of Kin's arms and lunges straight at Mu, calling him master. Then he falls on Mu's arm and grabs him tightly, But immediately, Mu feels tremendous pain throughout his arm. So he hurriedly knocks back his arm, letting out a cry, and throws Yang to the ground, badly hurting him. But then, Mu finds that it's Yang and tells him he's sore all over from training lately, so to be careful. At that moment, Kin rushes toward Mu along with Daljun, calling him and furiously asking what he's doing to Yang, while Mu evades her gaze. Meanwhile, the loan sharks look at the footage of Daljun and Yangzhou escaping from their office. The guy in charge of the office nervously says 2 missing student IDs and exactly 2 people who came and went overnight, plus the lizard that was left as collateral, so he asks the young master what they should do. Hearing that, the young master gets up and is about to hit him, furiously asking what he means what they should do, damn it, as who told him to manage to keys so carelessly. Then he releases a deep breath and walks away, telling him to forget it, as even if they don't get the money, it's just a small amount anyway. But the young master adds with a terrifying look on his face, the fact that they broke into the office, it's outrageous. Later that day, during the PE class's football match, one of the students kicks the football with a lot of strength, excitedly shouting eagle shot, as it goes straight at Mu and hits him in the head, which worries the other students. Getting hit so hard, Mu starts bleeding from his nose and says ouch, while looking really happy about it. After that, he excitedly rushes at the guy who kicked the football at him, and the student frightenedly asks why he isn't dodging. Right then, before he could do anything to stop Mu punches him in the stomach and makes him fall to the ground. Seeing that, the other students hurriedly rush at them to stop him, worriedly saying he's doing that again, so to stop him before he gets neutered. After that, it becomes a rumble among the students as they try to stop Mu, and seeing that from a distance, the PE teacher shouts at them asking what it is, to zoom, as what's going on. While Mu tries his best to free himself and fight the guy who kicked him with the ball, excitedly wondering if this is PE or what, as this is really fun. He likes it. In the meantime, just beside the football field, Kin hands Yang a smartphone, telling him that this is the one she used before. He can't make calls, but if there's Wi-Fi, he can use Messenger. Since neither of them has any way to communicate, she tells him to keep this with him, and if anything happens like last time, to contact her right away. Holding the phone, Yang confusedly asks Wi-Fi, Messenger, what that is. At that, Kin says oh, she hasn't explained it yet, and proceeds to explain it to him. At that moment, Yang notices the guy who forcefully took him to the loan shark's office, as he's on his phone, frustratedly saying wait, lost it again, and asks if it isn't a scam. Yang remembers what he did to him and gets infuriated at him, so then he hurriedly rushes at the guy, and the guy notices him coming. But before he could realize what's happening, Yang lunges at him and grabs his face tightly, furiously calling him a kidnapper, and telling him to die. The guy tries his best to pull him away, frightenedly asking what the, but Yang keeps holding his face tightly, which badly hurts him. Still, the guy somehow manages to pull him off his face and hurriedly tries to run away from him by tossing him to the ground, frustratedly saying that crazy lizard. At that moment, Mu walks on the sides with his teacher as he irritatedly asks why he keeps causing trouble, and tells him that if he keeps this up, he won't teach him sports anymore. He requests Mu for just one quiet day, but then, suddenly, the guy running away from Yang hits Mu's shoulder as he was running in that direction and falls to the ground. At that, Mu excitedly says ouch. Immediately, he goes up to the guy and proceeds to punch him in the face, saying it's PE time. Seeing that, the teacher tries his best to pull Mu away from the guy, frustratedly begging him to stop. Some time later, as it gets evening, the class gets dismissed, and Mu heads home with the class president. Mu says with a smile on his face that PE is fun. He wishes they could have PE every day. At that, Kin nervously tells him no, she doesn't think he actually knows what PE is. But she excitedly asks if he isn't training that day, and if he isn't dropping off Yang. After a while, Kin keeps trying to convince Mu, telling him no if they come to her place. Even Dooley likes it, as she was going to show them how to use smartphone features too. At the same time, Daljun is walking home with her friend, gossiping and laughing together, while Kangchial walks down the same street, annoyedly questioning if he slept wrong, as his neck hurts. And Daljun's brother Heejun heads somewhere, talking to his class president on his phone, telling him yes, he'll head there right away. At that moment, Yangzhou suddenly shows up in front of Daljun, calling her wallet owner and telling her to hand over her student ID while looking badly hurt, which surprises Daljun. She finds it difficult to recognize him as his face is covered with bandages, so she worriedly asks who he is. At that, Yangzhou frustratedly tells her that she and he were caught on CCTV, so to bring it now. Hearing that, Daljun questions what caught on CCTV if the two of them and her friend standing beside her confusedly wonders what she's talking about. Then Yongjo furiously shouts at Daljun, asking if she's not going to give it, as if she doesn't bring it, she's done for. He warns her, telling her to look at his face, so to bring the ID and return the money. Finding no response from Daljun, Yongjo hastily grabs hold of her backpack and asks if she hid it in her bag, and Daljun frustratedly asks if he's crazy or what. Right at that, both Kang Cheol and Lee Hyun notice Yongjo forcefully trying to take Daljun's bag, telling her to give it, and Daljun resisting. It makes them really furious as they question with a terrifying look on their faces if it's that jerk, and they both rush to help Daljun. As they dash forward at the speed of wind and run past Mu, he gets surprised to find them running for fast with killing intent. Yongjo pulls up Daljun, holding her collar and furiously telling her to give it back, calling her psycho. He asks if she wants a beating or just going to hand it over. Right at that moment, both Kang and Hyun come flying at him from behind Daljun and try to hit Yongjo straight in the face. But then, they find both of their attacks blocked by Mu single-handedly, and he tells them with a wide grin on his face, he asked first. Kang and Hyun get shocked to see that, and Yongjo confusedly asks what's going on with them. Hearing that, Mu looks back at him as well, and Yongjo stutteringly asks if it's Samjime. Then, finding no other choice, he picks up Daljun and starts running away from there. Mu gets startled by that, and wasting no time, Kang Cheol and Lee Hyun run after Yongjo as fast as they can. Lee Hyun frustratedly tells Yongjo to leave the kid, and Kang Cheol calls him a punk, while Mu also starts running after them, telling them to fight him first. After a while, Yongjo enters a secluded alleyway with Daljun on his back, and the three go after him and enter the alleyway as well. After that, Yongjo stops, and Kang recognizes that this is the same alleyway where his gang members previously brought Daljun. Then Yongjo drops her on the ground and puts down his bag, saying no one's even there. He calls Kang and Mu as Iljime and Hyun as Samjime, and tells them all with a serious look on his face to come at him. Hearing that, Mu immediately steps forward and tells him with a smile on his face that he's the one coming at him. At that, Hyun looks at him and frustratedly tells him to stop messing around. Because of that, Mu and Yongyong annoyedly look back at him. Then Hyun tells Mu that if he hadn't blocked earlier, they wouldn't even be there, so he asks with a creepy look on his face if he will take responsibility if Daljun gets hurt. At that, Mu calls him and tells him that it seems he really is angry. Then he excitedly asks who about releasing that anger through a fight. He tells him to take on Godori, and then him next. But right at that moment, Yongjo puts his hand on his shoulder and holds it tightly, telling him that he didn't come, so he came. Immediately, Mu feels as if his shoulder is breaking, so his body shakes with pain as he looks at him with the wide grin still on his face, and says ouch. Then he tries to throw a punch, aiming for his face in an instant, but Yongjo dodges the attack. After that, he holds Mu's other shoulder, wraps his leg around his, and uses a leg sweep to make him fall to the ground on his back hard, which shocks Mu. Right then, Hyun takes the opportunity and runs past Yongjo, straight at Daljun, calling her name. After that, he grabs her hand and hurriedly drags her away from there, telling her that they should go. Hyun understands that fighting is survival, but if it's situation they don't have to fight in, avoiding it is best. Seeing them escape, Yongjo irritatedly says Samjime, taking a student ID like that, while Mu surprisedly wonders if the training paid off, as he barely felt anything on his back. After that, he thinks to contract the back muscles as much as possible, and then expand them again, as Mu immediately bounces back onto his feet and again gets ready to fight Yongjo, which surprises him. Kang Cheol asks Mu if he needs any help, and Mu tells him no. Right at that moment, Yongjo extends his arm at him and tries to grab his face. Noticing that, Mu quickly steps back to dodge his attack, but still, Yongjo manages to grab hold of one of his hands. Then he grabs hold of his collar and again furiously pushes him to the ground, hitting him with a lot of force, using his over-the-shoulder throw. Mu surprisedly thinks, again, not much impact on the back and believes that this must be the result of training. But then, he finds something moving behind him, so he hurriedly looks back and gets worried to find that it is Yongyong behind him, looking devastated. The next moment, Mu finds that Yongjo is about to step on him hard using his feet, so he quickly moves out of the way and calls him a bastard. He furiously asks him what he did to Yongyong. Then he excitedly starts throwing rapid punches at Yongjo. At that, Yongjo hurriedly puts up his arms in front of him, as he finds him too overwhelming and thinks, this guy, that punch is way too strong for this weight class. Then Mu excitedly keeps going at him, telling him that this is revenge for Yongyong, and finding no other choice, Yongjo rushes back at him, saying hell. He puts his elbow in front of him and body slams straight into him, shouting who the hell is Yongyong, as he uses his skill. Mu gets surprised to see that, as he thinks this is like a boulder flying at him. So he hurriedly makes his leg muscles expand and puts his arms in front of him to stop Yongjo in his tracks. He tries his best to stop him, but he struggles, and Yongjo keeps pushing him back using an insane amount of force. Then Mu gets pushed back quite a distance by him and is about to fall, but manages to retain his footing by placing his hand on the ground in front of him. Then Kang Chiol, who's standing beside him, again asks if he needs help, but Mu tells him no and hands Yongyong to him. Mu gets back on his feet and exhaustedly thinks that it's still too hard to overcome the weight difference head-on. But no matter how big a boulder is, he excitedly clenches his fist, thinking there's no rock his fists couldn't break. So then, Mu rushes back into the fight, understanding that he has to break it slowly, starting from the weak points. Yongjo extends his arm to the front to grab Mu and beat him up again. But Mu quickly moves around and goes behind him in the blink of an eye. After that, Mu lands powerful blows on Yongjo's body from behind, badly hurting him. Then Yongjo turns around to hit him, but Mu quickly moves to the other side at lightning speed and lands even more hits on his body. After some time, Yongjo gets really exhausted and calls him a rat-like bastard, while Mu seems ready to land even more hits. But right then, out of nowhere, Yongjo shouts at Kang Chiol, telling him to stop, as it's a one-on-one duel, 2 against 1 is cheating. Hearing that, Mu says no and hurriedly looks back at Kang, telling him it's fine even if he doesn't help, but Kang is still standing at his place holding Yongyong, and seems confused. Then Yongjo takes the opportunity to come at Mu from behind and holds his neck tightly into a rear naked choke. Yongjo excitedly tells him that he got him, calling him a rat, while Mu finds it hard to even speak. Then Yongjo says that Ijime is down. Kang Chiol gets worried to see that, as he thinks that's dangerous, while also thinking about what he should do. Right then, Mu strugglingly says, help, and immediately, Kang Chiol starts rushing toward him, telling him he'll help, so to hang in there. But then, Mu tries his best to free himself a bit so that he can speak and shouts at Kang not to help. Kang Chiol gets startled to hear him say that and stops, then tells him with a wide grin on his face to never help him.